Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Monday edition of the Halas Hangover. We are the 4-Star Chicago Sports Podcast. I got, as usual, Dustin, Kyle, and Brandon in the house. How we doing today, boys?
What up?
Doing all right, man. Doing all right.
So what an interesting and fun wild card weekend. Which game you guys want to pluck it off with? First off, how was your guys' weekends? Who had the best weekend? What you guys end up doing this weekend? Anything fun and exciting?
I saw Yellow Wolf on Saturday. I had a lot of fun there. Went to a concert with my wife. So,
Nice.
Yeah, that was fun. So I didn't really get to catch that Ravens-Steelers game, but who cares? It was a pretty lopsided game, as we all kind of expected, unless the Steelers could muddy that thing up, which they were not able to do. So I think it's all been pretty much chalk. So
Pretty close.
The Commanders game last night, that was the only game really worth talking about. The rest of these games, I didn't expect the Broncos to have a chance in that game, and they did not.
I didn't either.
The Commanders-Bucks game, that was a hell of a game. A lot of back and forth there.
The doink that sends a team on to the next round, huh?
Yeah, we're not familiar with that kind of doink as Bears fans.
And sitting there watching that like, oh, come on, man. He just doinked it, but it went in. Come on.
Well, we all made our predictions on the last
Philip?
Monday show, so let's
What's up,
go
Bruce?
over. Sean, did you take the Texans?
I
Did
did
somebody
not,
take the Texans?
I did not. I think all of us took the Chargers, man.
Chargers.
Oh, yeah. So the
Chargers
Chargers
just-
screwed us all.
Fell on their asses, man. Just
Yeah.
completely
Not-
underperformed.
Pathetic effort.
We all took
Justin
Buffalo.
Herbert had 3 interceptions all season, and he has 4 in one playoff game.
Yeah, a couple of them were tipped. You know, is it possible that Justin Herbert is missing that true number one, a running back and a true number one receiver that can get him over this hump? Because obviously he struggled in 2 playoff games.
mean,
I
that's a
love
lot.
McCarthy, man. McCarthy
That's a
came
lot.
up big in that game.
He
Most
did.
receiving yards by a rookie in a game in NFL history. I mean, Herbert just took a lot of that one interception he threw trying to get it to Quentin Johnson. He was rolling right and threw it
Shrug.
all the way downfield across his body. It was just a bad throw. Like Herbert seems to fall apart in these games when it matters most, man.
Yeah, he's certainly
Start
starting to
talking
get that
about
reputation. He's certainly starting to get that reputation. Is he the next Kirk Cousins?
CSP.
What's going on, Trax?
What's up, Trex?
Yeah, I was very disappointed with that game, man.
I'll say
like-
this in Justin Herbert's defense. It's only his second playoff game. Sometimes you take your lumps. Not everyone is good in these big moments right away. The talent's obviously there. As you stated, he has McCarthy, and McCarthy is good. He had 9 for 197, I believe, in the game. But that true separator, that big guy threat that he doesn't have, I think could really do something well and get him a little bit of a better run game. But that's just me.
Well, so according to Keenan Allen, there's a very strong chance if he doesn't re-sign with the Bears, the only other team he's saying he'll sign with is the Chargers. So maybe they'll have Keenan Allen back next year.
Keenan and McCarthy.
Their run game was really good all year, man, and their defense was really good all year. And in that game, they just couldn't overcome the turnovers, and they couldn't establish the run. I mean, the Houston Texans defense should be really applauded for shutting down the run. If you shut down the run against the Chargers, that's it. They don't have a chance.
Yeah, well, they should be applauded for a lot. 4 interceptions from a guy who threw 3 all season. And people could say, "Oh, it's tips."
Well,
But you put yourself in position to make plays, and they did it.
Well, on that subject, guys, I believe the quarterback who just became the highest paid threw 3 interceptions as well in his second playoff appearance, right?
Mr. Jordan Love.
Love. So,
Boy,
how are we feeling about our division rival having a quarterback who seems to play his worst when it matters most? I mean, we talk about these guys all the
Won a
time.
playoff game
Talk
last year.
about
He looked
Lamar
good against the
Jackson.
Cowboys, but yeah,
We're talking about Justin Herbert. I mean,
his interceptions are becoming. I said this to Kyle all season. Kyle Harris, who's a Packers fan who joins the show often, all season, man. If he plays like that in the playoffs, he throws interceptions like he did early in the season. It's that you cannot rebound in the playoffs because these teams are much better. The defenses are better, especially when you're talking about a team like the Philadelphia Eagles, who probably have the best defense coming into the playoffs of any team in the playoffs. So they could not afford to do what they did. And you know what? I think that fumble on the kickoff just set the precedent for that game. I mean, that set the tone for that game.
and that dude
The
got
way that kickoff-
smoked, man. That was awesome.
actually a fumble, guys.
It wasn't. The Packers actually recovered that ball.
It was
The
a
Packers
fumble,
got
but it looked
screwed
like the
on that.
Packers recovered it. But I don't know what
Yeah.
they saw. I don't know. Maybe they said
That
he
wasn't
never
a
had ball
turnover.
control.
The guy went into the pile with the ball, and then that 10 seconds after the whistle blows, the
Yeah,
Eagles.
but that probably happens in the NFL more than we know. I mean, that bottom of the
Not
pile,
like
somebody
that,
rips
man.
the ball
You
out of
rarely
their
see
hand.
that.
Well, I'll tell you this, boys. The thing that makes me feel really great is they have a top 5 coach, the Packers. They have a system that schemes guys wide open. They have a top 5 offensive line. They have a top 5 run game, a defense that's good enough, and a quarterback that now has more multi-interception games than any other quarterback since the start of last season. And he is 290th out of 344 quarterbacks that have played in the playoffs since 2000. With 15 or plus dropbacks, he has a 30% quarterback or passer rating. It's the worst, almost the worst ever in the playoffs. So Jordan Love, yeah,
I
baby.
think Jordan Love is exactly what I was saying he was. Sean, I think you agreed with me. I mean, I think Jordan Love's a good quarterback, but he's a gunslinger in an NFL where making mistakes becomes a lot more detrimental to your team than it did 20 years ago, man. I mean, you cannot go against Philadelphia Eagles, fumble on the first drive, and then throw 2 interceptions before halftime. There's no way you're going to beat the Eagles in their house if you do that. It's not going to happen. And the Packers were too far behind; they couldn't catch up. And that's exactly and you know what? In the Packers' defense, guys, they were banged up coming into this game, and they lost like 8 more starters during this game. They got the Eagles were beating the shit out of them physically. It started with that opening kickoff. He hit that guy hard. You could hear that hit on the TV.
Oh, that was awesome.
Jordan Love threw the interception to lose the game against the Niners last year. Jordan Love has been that player as long as he's been in the league. I mean, I think he's better than he gets credit for from some people. I think the Packers had to pay him, but he's going to give the ball away. We've been talking about that all year, and he was true to form. And not having Christian Watson really hurt that offense.
Too, and I'll say this, in the first half of that game, one of my biggest questions was, where is Jaden Reed? Why is the offense not trying to get the ball to your best playmaker outside of Josh Jacobs on the field? Once again, either Jaden Reed is not good enough to be relied on as a big-time player in big spots.
He's not.
Because this has happened repeatedly, and he's had some big games, but this is your weapon. You should have tried and get the ball to him because he's dangerous in open space, and you're already limited on weapons to begin this game. And didn't Dobbs get hurt in this game too? I don't remember.
Jaden Reed was walking off the field at one point too, man.
Yeah, he either looked like he broke his arm at one point, but I think he can't.
Oh, that's right. He was
definitely like a
right.
Stinger.
Yeah, man. I don't listen. That Eagles
got knocked
secondary is really good. That Eagles secondary is really good. So they went up against a bad matchup. I expected the Packers to have no chance in that game, and that's kind of the way it played out. But at the same time, guys, the Eagles didn't look very good either.
They did not.
Even though that they won that game and that was never really in doubt, you still walk away from that game wondering, are the Eagles actually any fucking good?
I think defensively.
Once again, in their defense, I think Jalen Hurts played like 4 snaps the previous 3 weeks before the playoff game. So he also might have been a little bit rusty. But no, they did not look. And you know what? Jalen Hurts has not had good passing numbers all year. If you can slow the run down against the Eagles, you're going to be in the game because they're not going to pass for 350 yards.
Jalen Hurts has not had good passing numbers in the playoffs in general, except for that Super Bowl.
Not really in his career.
Every playoff game, he's not throwing the ball very much. 150 yards is usually about where he ends up. It's not very impressive. He's not really a passing quarterback.
But can we all agree, guys, that the best run of the NFL season was that Josh Jacobs?
Get in the end zone.
That was amazing. And the second best run in the NFL might be that Dallas Goedert catch. He was just kept shoving that guy.
He waited for the guy to stiff arm him.
Yeah. Instead of
Derrick Henry had a fun run too, man. He stiff armed that guy like 5 yards up the field in the Pittsburgh game.
Well, that's expected from.
Listen, the thing that stood out the most in these playoffs, guys, is that the teams that established the run and stuck with it kicked ass. The Buffalo Bills ran it for over 200 yards. The Ravens ran it for almost 300 yards. The Eagles established the run in that game. I mean, that's
the Commanders ran the ball well.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I will say though, one thing I'll take from this first round of the playoffs is prior to this weekend, I thought it was going to be Eagles Lions, and I really didn't care. I don't want the Eagles anywhere near the Super Bowl, man. That fan base is the most disgusting terrible, shitty, garbage fan base in all of sports. I mean, I don't know if you guys seen some of these videos coming out. It's absolutely insane. Sean, you
It
know
is
what I'm talking about?
disgusting. It is disgusting.
Disgusting.
What happened in that.
They are terrible human beings, man. In no way, shape, or form can I root for the Eagles with that fan base. No way. And people always say, well, the Packers fan base, I hate Packers fans. Dude, if you go to Lambeau Field, I've been there a couple times now. They are the nicest people on the planet. They really are. They could not be more hospitable than they are. Every time you go up there, they're like, hey, park in my driveway, $10. You give them the $10 and then they offer you $300 worth of food and booze. You're like, what's the $10 for?
Hey, to touch on Dustin's point, I looked this up earlier today, but the last three, Jalen Hurts, his last three playoff games, 131, 2 touchdowns, 121, and no touchdowns, passing 154 and 2 touchdowns. The defense in those 3 games, 10, 7, and 7. So they're living off defense, man.
Yep. The defense and running the football, man. That's gonna be what wins this Super Bowl, and to tie that into the Bears guys, that's like they couldn't stop the run and they couldn't establish the run. That's why they weren't a good football team. That's why you need a head coach that's gonna prioritize those things. And the offensive line, which Trax was mentioning earlier here. Lineman lives matter too. He was asking about Joe Alt. Joe Alt was a stud in that game. Joe Alt's gonna be a stud for the next 10 years.
In Philadelphia, Kansas City, and Detroit, you've got 3 of the best offensive line in football, which will likely end up, in the conference finals, I would imagine, those 3 teams. So,
and one of the Ravens or the Bills.
It's a lot about trenches, guys. And hopefully Poles is taking his notes here because
can I ask you guys?
They're able to run the ball, they're able to pass the ball, whatever seems fitted, whatever the defense is going to let them do, they do well. Teams like the Lions, the Bills.
Vernon, is there any team watching this first round wildcard weekend? Is there any team that you think you did not have in there with the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Lions, and the Ravens that you think could probably maybe sneak into the championship? Like the Commanders?
No, I don't. I don't think Washington.
The Commanders are going to be able to hang in there offensively with the Lions.
I think the Commanders can hang there with the Eagles too, man. I think that Commanders team is better than we're giving them credit for, man. I think that team is really, really good.
I'm starting.
Their offense is almost unstoppable.
Jaden Daniels is unstoppable. Sean, you said you had that stat that I shared earlier.
Yes.
Share that now because that's so impressive, dude.
Let me find
and their third and fourth down numbers are insane. It's like 80%.
It's because Jaden Daniels can kill you with either the pass or the run. You cannot defend it. You just can't.
He's amazing. He's amazing. If he keeps doing this, he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL for a long time.
Yeah. He's Lamar Jackson, but a much better thrower early on in his career. He's Michael Vick, but a much better thrower. How do you stop that?
Zero punts and 0 turnovers in his first road playoff game, man.
0 punts, 0 turnovers for 3 games in his career so far, right?
Oh, yeah, 3 games in his career, correct.
And combined, who is it? Joe Montana, Tom Brady Patrick Mahomes, and Peyton Manning have 2. They have 2 total. Yeah. So Jaden Daniels has more than all those guys combined in his career so far, and he's working on his rookie season right now, guys. And that team has won 13 games.
That's why I picked Washington, man. Nobody has stopped their offense. I can't remember a game this season where Washington didn't score a ton of points or was even slowed down remotely.
I'll say
correct me if I'm wrong. Do you guys remember a game where Washington just got their asses whooped? I don't. They've been in every single game this season.
I mean, throughout the game early on, they'll start off slow, but they'll have that run at the end of the game.
And then you can't stop them on 4th down. They basically are the tush push.
It's like they've got a culture and an identity and stuff.
The first game of the year, they lost by 17, but then every other game that they lost this year was within a touchdown. So
wasn't that to the Giants?
Tampa Bay.
Oh, so it's Tampa Bay.
At Tampa Bay, they lost 37-20.
Yeah, but you're talking about his first Jay Daniels.
No, I'm fine. No, I'm backing up your point, Kyle. They've been in every game.
Yeah, I mean, what team in the playoffs are they not going to be in the game against? I don't think there is one. I think they could go up against the Vikings, the Rams, the Eagles, the Lions.
Well, they're playing the Lions. Anybody. So they're playing the Lions. That's the one they got to worry about. Lions.
I'll say this.
It's going to be a good game.
I think that Lions game is going to could possibly come down to last possession.
That's kind of that'll be interesting to see because both of these teams have found ways to win close games at the end of it.
Yeah.
So that'll be who comes up with the play when they need it the most. Jaden Daniels has been doing it all season, like you guys are saying, and the Lions seem to figure it out every game. It doesn't seem like they've won a lot of blowouts.
The only thing about the Commanders is I don't think they could sustain like one major injury, not one.
What up, Plank?
They're too thin. Like if you lost Terry McLaurin, you're done. Because Terry McLaurin is their offense. I mean, their passing offense. He's it. It's him and Zach Ertz. That's it. Basically all they got.
I will tell you this. I would take Washington plus 10 all day. They're at minus 9.5. They're laying 9.5. Detroit. I would be jumping all over Washington's side with that, dude. That might be the hotbed of the weekend, dude. I don't know that I could see them losing by 10 points. That over 55 looks pretty good too.
That's a high number. That's a high number.
That's like because I'm with that though. I think this is going to be a shootout, man, and I think it could possibly come down to last possession. I mean, Washington's defense has been pretty good. They've actually improved from last year. Detroit's defense is a little banged up. They both can move the ball. This is a really fun game, guys. This is a really fun game.
Saturday night.
But the Bills and Ravens is going to be the game.
It's going to steal the show. Philip mentioned that earlier, and just real quick, guys. Philip, CSP, that's Trax. Notorious TBG is with us. Bear down, homies. Plank just jumped in with us. We got Liz, Bruce, everybody in here. Thank you so much for being here. Hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. Share it with a friend. Tell them you enjoy this and that they will too. Thank you, guys.
You guys know my love. You guys know my love for the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen. But I'm just going to say I don't think it's a lot of coincidence at 30 years old that Derrick Henry at his highest per carry average of his career, his second best year in his entire career. What's that? Well, it doesn't matter. He's done this on Tennessee with a much worse team. My point being, he is on a much better team, and if they
can replicate line over there,
if they can replicate what they did early in the season, I think it was week 6 against the Bills when they beat them 35-10. Lamar Jackson only passed in that game 18 times. They ran 37 times for almost 300 yards. They do that again, Buffalo's going to get smoked again, guys.
That's what they just did against that Steelers defense, Sean.
What's that?
That's what they just did against that Steelers defense.
Yep.
Yeah, Sean, you said this is a career year for Derrick Henry. I'm saying, can you imagine Derrick Henry at 24 if he would have been playing for a team with this offensive line? And he would have been the best running back ever to play football.
Well, Derrick Henry now, it's good enough. It's good enough for them to beat the Bills.
He was held back by the Titans for years. That's nice to see him on a team where he can actually flourish and be the guy he is.
Yeah, I mean, his career high was in 2020. He had 2141 yards from scrimmage. This year, he had 2,114. I mean, he barely missed his career numbers. I was a little low on his touchdowns. I said 18 to 20. He wound up with 16, which is also second high in his career. He had 17. 2020 was his best career year in every statistical category, pretty much. So, but nonetheless, that was the Vrabel team. They went on and they actually wound up losing to Baltimore in the playoffs 20-13 in 2020. So here's a little redemption story, I guess, even though it's not the Titans, but he has another chance here in a divisional round.
You know, it sounds like you're picking the Ravens,
guys. It's hard not to like the Ravens.
Hey, my heart is with this guy and this team right here. I want them to win the Super Bowl, but styles win fights, man, and I think this is just a bad matchup for the Bills. I hope they prove me wrong. I hope they do.
The Bills established something in that game against the Broncos where they weren't really trying to get the ball to the weapons on the outside. It was run the football with their stable of running backs. It wasn't just Cook and with Josh Allen and just getting the tough yards. And they committed to bully ball in that game. And if they play that game against the Ravens, it's going to be a slugfest, man. It'll be tight and it'll be a hard fought game. And
I'm with you.
Come out with it.
I think I'm a little scoring from the 35-10 beatdown from the beginning.
Well, I mean, it's fair to say that the Bills' defense is probably the weakest of the four links of the four categories groups in this game, right? I mean, the Ravens' defense isn't spectacular, but it's better than the Bills. And then you have the Ravens' offense, the Bills' offense. The Bills' defense is still. I know that they didn't look good against. They look good against the Broncos, but the Broncos aren't a really good offense. I mean, they've been inconsistent all year. the Bills against a team like the Ravens, let's see how that defense plays. I just don't trust them, man. I don't trust them.
And that Ravens secondary is suspect. They can get thrown on. So.
Yes, it is.
I'll tell you, if Derrick Henry has 24 for $1.99 again, dude, the Bills are cooked. That's all I'm gonna say.
That's a fair prediction, Sean.
For sure.
He did have his second longest run of the year in that game, 87 yards. So.
On the other end of the football, man, James Cook's got 16 touchdowns this season. He scored in 13 out of 17 games. 2 of them he scored multiple times.
He's a beast.
That's just rushing.
He's got more than that now.
That's just his
playoffs.
Rushing. I included that. That's just his rushing. I think he had some receiving touchdowns.
He's got 2 receiving touchdowns on the season.
I think he's got 19, including the playoffs. 19 or 20.
These are 2 touchdown machines, really, on this team.
Well, this is going to be a lot of
that
fun.
game, Brandon. Who do you think is going to pull it out?
I'm going to say Bills, man.
Hey.
Oh,
whoa. Look at this role reversal.
Link's got the Bills winning it all, so
I don't expect either defense to hold up against either one of these quarterbacks, and I like Josh Allen in a shootout because Derrick Henry becomes irrelevant if it's going back and forth in the air. You know what I mean? And Lamar can do it.
Yeah, they end up going with Justice Hill if they need to throw the ball in that pass protection. And
I just think Josh Allen ends up with the ball in his hands on the final drive.
I'll say this: it sounds like Zay Flowers is going to miss another game.
Yeah, that's good. That could be an issue for the Ravens. He's their best receiver.
Said he has an outside chance of playing in this game.
Brandon, you changed my mind. I'm going with the Bills. I'm taking the Bills.
Kyle, who are you going with?
I'm taking the Bills.
I want Josh Allen to win a Super Bowl. And if there's anybody who could take down the mighty Ravens, it would be Josh Allen. But I just think right now the Ravens are too much for them, man. I think the Bills can slow Derrick Henry down, but they can't stop him, man. The Bills haven't stopped a running back all season, all year. I mean, besides the Javonte Williams, McLaughlin, terrible running back trio they have going on in there in Denver. But besides that, they've gotten ran over all season. And I think Derrick Henry is going to continue to do that. And realistically, I think the Ravens this weekend who had a whole drive without passing the ball. I think that was the Ravens. They can do that against anybody in the NFL. Their offensive line's good. Derrick Henry will pick up 3 or 4 carries, extra yards on every carry. How can you stop that? You still have to worry about Lamar Jackson running around in the backfield. And guys Lamar. Like Isaiah likely needs to be receiver for the Ravens. I don't understand how they can't see this. This guy should not be a tight end for them. He should be a receiver. Every time a receiver is hurt and he has to go play receiver, he's their best weapon. They need to keep Isaiah Likely on the outside. He needs to be kind of like a Brock Bowers.
But the 2 tight end sets really help their offense, Kyle, in terms of running and passing.
Now they're using the backup tight end and they're putting Likely on the outside. They still have 2 tight ends in the field with Mark Andrews and that backup tight end. But I'm telling you, man, Isaiah Likely plays better in the slot than he does on the end of the line. He does. Go watch the first game of the season and this last playoff game where he played receiver. He's just a better receiver than he is tight end.
I got the Ravens. I think Josh Allen wins his MVP finally, but I think Lamar Jackson gets over this playoff hump, man, and could compete to get to that AFC Championship and maybe get out and go to the Super Bowl. But yeah, I'm going to take the Ravens. It's in Buffalo though, man. So
in Buffalo?
It's going to be a tough, hard fought.
It's definitely going to be a good game for sure.
All right, Brandon, it's you and I. I'm taking the Bills. I'm flipping the script. I'm not going against Josh Allen. I like that it's in Buffalo. Brandon, you sold me on it. They're going to take away the run, take away Derrick Henry. Josh Allen's going to lead them to victory. Let's go, Buffalo.
All right.
I was thinking, it sucks that Joe Burrow's not in the playoffs, guys. It really sucks.
Yeah, but the Bengals suck too, so that's why they're not in the playoffs.
You know what, though? Let me ask you this. If Joe Burrow could have been in over Denver, the Chargers, or –
over Denver for sure. They would have been a much better matchup for the Bills. Burrow versus Josh Allen. That turns into a shootout.
I can't believe so.
The Broncos did not have the offense to keep up in that game.
How crazy? Have you ever seen a season? Joe Burrow is the number 1 passer in passing yards, number 1 passer in passing touchdowns. Jamar Chase is the number 1 receiver in all 3 statistical categories: touchdowns, catches, yards. And they have the guy in the NFL with the most sacks in the NFL on the other side, Trey Hendrickson. What? How do you not make the playoffs?
Yeah,
how
but
do you
the rest
not
of that
make the
team
playoffs?
only had like 6 sacks, Kyle. Like they only had 20 sacks. He had 15 of them.
He had
was egregiously bad, man.
Yeah, but listen, it shows you. defense in the run game. You see it in these playoffs. You see defensive coaches moving on in these playoffs. You see the teams that can run the football and establish their will on another team, on that other team. They're the ones that are moving on. And that's the way it always goes in the playoffs, guys. You can get all the weapons you want. You can have the fancy quarterback, but you've got to have a run game, and you've got to be able to stop that team when it matters most. You have to. That's the only way you
Sounds
win.
like Dustin is moving a running back in the draft up higher and higher every week here.
Not necessarily. There's some good free agent ones too, but I mean, we can get into that.
You know what though? This draft is so stacked. I mean, there's possibly
There's a lot of
18
running
backs in this draft.
There's a lot of running backs.
All the Bengals' money is locked up in those three guys. So I guess they're doing their job, Scott.
Yeah, they are.
Dennis Moody's with us. What's up, you sexy
What's up,
mofo?
Dennis?
What up, Dennis? How you doing? Trax is asking about the Los Angeles fires. I mean, I haven't heard much about it today. It's getting worse from everything that I've been hearing, though. It's a sad, sad thing, man. And we hope we hope that they can rebuild all that shit, man, because a lot of people are losing a lot of stuff, man. And to tie that into the NFL tonight, they can't play that game in Los Angeles. They're playing it in Arizona, guys. Does Los Angeles go out there and win it for their city? Is there any of those? Can we get some good vibes for those guys out there? I mean,
I'm taking the Rams. I took the Rams last
they need
week.
to get water. That's what they need.
Yeah. God bless all those families out there. Our thoughts and prayers are with you.
Everybody's all right.
Red Cross has a lot of stuff up. If anyone can help out and contribute, look them up online. Help out these unfortunate families. What was that?
4 stars, 4-leg Monday night parlay, since we're about 20 minutes.
Yeah, we can do that before this game kicks off in about 30 minutes. Go ahead.
Who do you guys got in the game? You said you got the Rams, Sean. Kyle, who do you got? You got the Vikings?
Yeah, I picked the Vikings on Monday. I'm going to stick with it.
Brandon, Vikings?
I also don't like the fact that it's now a neutral site. I mean, that's
that definitely doesn't help the Rams. That definitely does not help the Rams. As Sean's pointed out, the Rams beat the Vikings earlier in this season, and it was actually a pretty handy win. They won pretty handily. So, I mean, like, they have that going for them, but the Rams offense has been struggling down the stretch here. That defense has been keeping them in these games and winning the games for them. I got to go with the Vikings. I think the Vikings are the better team, but I'm going to be rooting for the Rams because I don't want to see the Vikings win.
Yeah, of course.
I don't want to see the Vikings
win. I hope all Bears fans.
And I'd like to see the Rams bring some good vibes to that Los Angeles area,
Absolutely. Let's go Rams.
So what do we got for our 4 legs, guys?
Scott says bear down.
Bear down, Scott Angel. Thanks for joining us. Hit that like button.
All right, Sean.
Plank's got the Rams. Plank's got the Rams.
4-leg Monday parlay, guys.
Yeah, Sean, we're going to do a 4-leg parlay for the Monday night Vikings versus Rams game in Arizona. Sean, you could start it off. What's the first leg of the 4-leg parlay?
I know this isn't going to be a popular one because we just talked before we went on air, but I like TJ Hawkinson over. I got him over 44.5. I just looked. It's up to 45.5, so that makes me feel a little bit better. But I got TJ Hawkinson over 44.5. Play him up to 45. Who cares? I think he's going to do well. The Rams are usually suspect. They've actually – I just looked up their stats. They've actually been a little bit better against tight ends this year. They've 83 targets, 51 catches, 459 yards. They've only allowed 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, but this is a different team because you got to watch out for Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. So TJ Hawkinson gets
exactly
open more for the Vikings than most tight ends do. Vernon, what's your leg?
I like Cam Akers over 19.5 yards rushing. He's hit that mark 11 out of 15 games this season, and he is playing the team that drafted him and traded him. I think even cut him, right?
I think they did.
They cut him, re-signed him, and traded him. Yeah.
And the Rams have been okay, guys, against the run, but they're allowing 130 yards per game. And I think games like these, spellbacks are always kind of sneaky. If you can't really get your run game going, if the Vikings have issue doing that with Aaron Jones, Cam Akers is that guy that can come in and give him a little spark. Because Jones is, to me, I've always viewed Jones as a much bigger threat as a receiver than a running back. I could see them getting their rushing yards out of Akers.
Interesting.
I love that. Brandon.
Dustin?
I'll just go with Justin Jefferson anytime touchdown, minus 140. I like the odds. Justin Jefferson against that Rams secondary. I think he can get it.
Yeah, and he was on fire early in the season and hit a slump, but he's back to catching touchdowns.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and he was close to catching a few in that Lions game that could have been big plays. So I mean, like I think he wants some redemption this week. He's gonna tear up that secondary. I think, guys.
Kyle, what you got? I'll throw in a bonus one after you go, Kyle.
Sean, I'm going to do the one you said earlier. I think I'll take Puka Nacua over. I think what did you say it was, Sean?
He was at 90 receptions. He was over 7.5.
No, not receptions. Reception yards. 92
and a half. Last I looked. I don't know if it's
I'll
moved.
take that. I like Puka Nacua. I think he's one of them. When he's healthy, he's probably top 5 receiver in the NFL, and I think he's going to show up in a big moment.
And to touch on Brandon's point, for one bonus, if you want to stretch it to a fifth leg, I love Aaron Jones over 2.5 receptions today.
Listen, that Rams defense gets after that quarterback quick.
Yep.
So
Dump ball.
Yeah.
I like Aaron Jones. I like Aaron
out
Jones
to his running backs and his tight ends pretty quickly. So the Hawkinson thing makes sense.
And both quarterbacks are at a touchdown and a half, guys. It'd probably take the over on both those, to be honest. On Darnold.
Yeah.
All
right. 4 stars, 6-leg parlay.
Well, you
Take
just
a 7.
parlay can throw some money on and actually get paid out, right?
So let me ask you guys this really quick, just to recap, since we don't have who Philadelphia is playing yet. Everyone, I take it, likes Kansas City. Over.
Yeah. I don't think Houston is going to do it. Yeah,
100%. Not even a question.
We all are we all taking Detroit over Washington?
I am.
Yeah.
Yes, that's 100%. Yes, the Lions are going.
You're taking them too, Kyle.
100%.
All right, I'm taking Detroit too. I'm just saying I would definitely look into that +10. I think that's way too big of a spread.
Yeah, I think that comes down, man. By the time the game comes around, that number's going to come down a little bit.
And then we got Bills, Brandon and I, Ravens, Kyle and Dustin.
Yeah, we're split on that one, but that makes sense because that's going to be the best game of the playoffs potentially, guys. That's going to be a hell of a game.
Well,
I hope that game's
let me
42-40.
ask you this though. Well, I will tell you. Does your opinion on next week's game change depending on who wins, Minnesota or St. Louis? Or Los Angeles, because they're both going to Philadelphia. I'm taking Philly in either one of those matches.
I'm taking Philly in either one. Philly in either one.
I've loved Philly all year, even before the season started. But again,
Minnesota.
It just seems like there's something off with that team. The defense is playing really well, but offensively, they are not getting it together at all.
Hurts was off for a week. He got hit pretty hard, man. I don't like he probably that concussion looked pretty bad. So
he was out for a few weeks.
Oh yeah,
he got hurt on the 22nd of December.
So he probably just needs to get.
Trey, I agree. Philly looks a little suspect, man. I don't know. The Vikings could go into Philly and beat them.
Here's the problem though, guys, and this is why when we were talking about Philly earlier, there is no way. After what I've seen this season, because we just watched Saquon Barkley have he wasn't super effective in that game against Green Bay. There's no way he's contained again.
Well, he had a $119.
This guy doesn't run for
He had a $119.
I know, and it still felt like, you know what I mean? Like he's capable of 150 and 2 TDs. Easy.
I'll give props to the Packers defense. They played they made life tough on Philly on Sunday, man. That's true. So
and that starts with
kept them close
Saquon Barkley. It really does. It starts with Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, I agree.
That's the difference in the Seagulls offense to me from the one that struggled all last season.
Hey, Kyle, remember when I said this at the beginning of the year? I thought Jalen Hurts was going to be closer to the Jalen Hurts that ended the year last year, opposed to the Jalen Hurts that took the Eagles to the Super Bowl. I've never really thought that he was a great quarterback. He was just in a very good situation. So
I think there's a lot of those guys
to show.
I think you could say the same about Tua Tagovailoa. I think some of these guys are just more like system quarterbacks who ended up in really good systems. And then when they did it so early and so young, we just assumed they were really good quarterbacks. And now you're starting to see how these guys play through adversity. And to be honest with you, if we were starting a franchise tomorrow, Jalen Hurts would not be on my list of top 10 quarterbacks to start.
But Jalen Hurts is one of the more intelligent and one of the hardest working individuals in the sport.
Sure.
There's no doubt about that.
That's fine.
Sure.
So
Good for him.
Jalen Hurts, I don't think Jalen Hurts is like a Tua. I don't think if he goes to
No, I
another,
think he's better than Tua.
I don't think if he goes to another team, he's a complete failure. You know what I mean? Like, I think.
Listen,
Jalen-
every quarterback needs a good system to thrive in. Joe Montana needed it.
Fair enough.
Peyton Manning needed it. Tom Brady needed it. Like all these
And
guys.
how good is Sirianni?
Sirianni is a psycho.
How good is that? Is Jalen Hurts maybe better than we think? I think Sirianni sucks. I can't.
Trey, you are 100% right. Love just throws balls up for grabs. Sean was mentioning it last night. The amount of prayers that this guy throws up.
Yeah, he does, man.
Yes, he does. He does that a lot, and he's got some. I'll say this: for as I guess you'd say bad as the Packers receiving corps is, because they don't really have a star on there. They are really good at making adjustments, man. Because Jordan Love should have thrown a lot more interceptions this year. I've seen this in at least 3 games. The 3 games I've actually watched the Packers, where there's 3 or 4 times a game where he throws balls up and they are caught instead of picked off. Some of those passes should be intercepted. Those are not good passes. We saw it against Jalen Jett. Malik Willis did the same thing on the Packers against the Bears. So I'm throw that ball that Tyreek Stevenson got out of position, and I think it was Heath came down and made a miraculous catch. But Green Bay, they're throwing up Hail Marys.
There's part of being a quarterback where you have to throw those balls up.
100%.
You have to give your receiver
100%.
a chance at it. That you have to take chances down the field. So I mean that's part of the game. But yeah,
isn't poetic justice that before season started, Matt LaFleur said something along the lines of, if I hear the term number one receiver again, I'll vomit in my mouth. That's what he said. And there's got to be a thought in his mind watching that playoff game. Like, I could
use a number one receiver.
Well, how about ironic is, I mean, Aaron Rodgers was
one of those guys right about now.
Aaron Rodgers was begging for a number 2 receiver in Green Bay for 10 years, and they
watch LaFleur say all he says.
And ironically, he got the number 1 and the number 2 in New York and still sucked. So.
Yeah, well, he's also 39. I mean.
Watch Keenan Allen be a Green Bay Packer after all the
all
the stuff that guy
no
talks
way.
about.
All this Packers talk brings up the fact that before we jumped on here, it started getting reported that the Bears have requested to interview Adam Stenavich, the offensive coordinator for the Packers.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of that? What does the chat think of that? How are we feeling about the Bears?
I think that's a hard pass for me. I mean,
hard no.
Yeah, so real quick,
Sean, to be correct, that might be an intel interview.
Yeah.
The Bears are going to do plenty of those. It seems like it. They've got 20 people on there. Like, it feels like there's a lot of intel interviews. I hope there's a lot of intel interviews on there, but I don't love that just because wasn't this his first year as an OC?
Yeah, I believe so.
I mean,
I don't recall.
The only thing that impressed me is how he coached Malik Willis.
I don't think so. I think he's been there since.
Yeah, I think he's been there 2 years now.
Luke Getzey wasn't an offense, or no, yeah. So who was the offense coordinator? Luke Getzey was what's his name from the Jets?
Hackett.
Yeah, Nathaniel Hackett. So I think Nathaniel Hackett was fired. Luke Getzey was hired by the Bears, and I think they hired Stenavich that year. Real quick, just for listeners, just an update on the Bears interview process right now. So Mike Vrabel obviously has been eliminated. He was hired by the New England Patriots yesterday. They've interviewed Drew Petzing, Ben Johnson, Anthony Weaver, Pete Carroll, Mike Kafka, Aaron Glenn, Ron Rivera, and Thomas Brown. They have requested or scheduled interviews for Mike McCarthy, David Shaw, Brian Flores, Arthur Smith, Todd Monken, Joe Brady, Marcus Freeman, Cliff Kingsbury, and Adam Stenavich.
I was going to say their list kind of looks like my jewel receipt right now. It's real ridiculous.
How often Bears fans get to complain that the Bears may be doing too much work?
Hey, really quick on Stenavich, dude. He's been with the Packers since 2019 as offensive line coach. In 21, he was promoted to offensive line and run game coordinator. In 22, he was promoted to the offensive coordinator.
Yeah,
so it's 2 years.
Exactly what we thought.
Anytime that you're coming from a head coach that is really the offensive coordinator and you're the offensive coordinator on that team, I am wary of that, guys. I'm just wary of it. I'm with you. Matt LaFleur is the one that controls that offense, the one that calls that offense. Stenavich is it's a glorified position in my mind. I mean, listen, I could be wrong. Maybe he's a great candidate, but
he probably
it doesn't strike me as as worthwhile, to be honest.
I agree, man.
And
They're
Dustin,
like
that's
they're
kind
like
of my
glorified
thinking when
quarterback
passing.
coaches. That's what they are. They're glorified quarterback coaches. And these guys, it's the same thing we saw with Matt Nagy. Andy Reid was responsible for the development of all those players. He was responsible for putting those players in good positions to succeed. He was responsible for how that offense clicks or runs on all cylinders. You're going to have the same thing with Adam Stenavich if you hire him. I think that for the Bears personally, I don't like to say that they requested this interview to do like whatever you guys are talking about, like
get intel. I don't really buy
that doesn't
either.
make sense to me. I think it's a waste of your time. But I would like to see the Bears interview as many guys as possible. A lot of people are complaining about that. How often do we complain about the Bears doing too much work? Now, listen, once they like get down to like those 4 or 5 guys they like schedule second interviews, then I'm fine with it. But if obviously they can't schedule second interviews with all 16 of these guys, or then you're spreading yourself too thin. You're not doing enough research on the guys who actually stand a chance. But I'm fine with them doing all these interviews and then rescheduling like 3 or 4 guys. They're top 4 guys. I think ultimately, guys, I don't know about you guys can tell me if you think I'm wrong. I think it's going to come down to Todd Monken, Ben Johnson, Pete Carroll, and Marcus Freeman. I think those are the 4 guys who the Bears are actually considering giving a job.
I would take Freeman off that list.
Apparently, Ryan Poles and Kevin Warner both love Marcus Freeman.
It's about what Freeman wants, though, too. If Freeman doesn't agree to even into that fray.
I won't speak on that because I don't know if he's happy in college or if he's looking to be promoted to the NFL. I have no idea. But if he is looking for an NFL job,
if he has no interest, that'll be reported quickly.
Yeah, I think he would deny the interview, right?
I don't think
it just came out today, guys, that from I think it was Schefter or Rappaport, one of those two, that Freeman is not really interested. He's happy where he's at. That's what was reported today. I don't know if it makes any sense. Listen, I would love Marcus Freeman. I've brought him up from the beginning of this thing. I think he would be a great head coach. He might have a couple bumps learning along the way, but he's going to turn into a hell of an NFL head coach if he ever makes that jump. And I would love the Bears to actually get in front of something for once instead of trying to be behind it. And I think Freeman really signifies that. I just don't think he's a realistic candidate. I hope to God he is, to be honest. I think Aaron Glenn is a guy that you put on that list, Kyle, in place of Marcus Freeman, to be quite honest. I think the Bears like him a lot.
This isn't going to be popular for me.
I was going to say Brian Flores probably, if not Marcus Freeman, because then
I hope
apparently the Bears like Brian Flores. I don't, but apparently the Bears do.
I've said this from the beginning. Flores, just because of his relationship with Poles, should be automatically disqualified.
I'm going to throw this out there. It's not going to be popular, but
you guys, what up?
You guys
don't do it, Sean. Don't do it.
You guys might want to start thinking about Mike McCarthy a little bit because I do think he's going to be very high on the Chicago Bears radar.
So do I.
Listen, I love that. I really do. Listen, me and Brandon have been saying this from the beginning too. A guy who's done it before, who's not going to be learning on the job, who's not going to be potentially, poisoned by the dysfunction of this team, a guy that can stand against that current, a guy like Vrabel, who is our number 1 choice right now. Pete Carroll is that guy. Mike McCarthy is that guy. Culture guys, leaders of men guys. I am not against it at all. Mike McCarthy's been successful everywhere he's gone, guys. Everywhere.
I think when it came to both Dak Prescott and Aaron Rodgers, Mike McCarthy was kind of like took a back seat. I think those guys were at some one point. Aaron Rodgers was basically running that team, man. I mean, he showed up to training camp if he felt like it. He'd play in the preseason if he wanted to. And Mike McCarthy was like, okay. I mean, it's kind of like the same situation with LeBron James and the Lakers. I don't think Mike McCarthy screams leader of men in any way possible. I don't think he's a good leader of men at all. I think Mike McCarthy knows how to coach a football team. I don't think he's good at controlling those personalities. I don't think he has been since he got to the NFL.
Listen, Mike McCarthy's biggest knock to me is his game management, his challenges, his clock management. I've always had questions about that, especially since he's been in Dallas. A lot of questionable decisions in tight games that I've seen. So that concerns me because that could be more of the same of what we've seen with the Bears. But I like the fact that this guy's had success in multiple locations, man. It's not a bad idea to me to interview this guy and potentially hire him.
He's been incredibly inconsistent in Dallas and in the Packers. I think that he held the back. I think the Packers should have won another Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. I know that's all hearsay, and I know it's all. I just think that the Packers should have won another Super Bowl, and I think if they had a better coach, they would have. I think if Andy Reid had been the Packers coach with Aaron Rodgers for 10 years, they would have won multiple Super Bowls. I don't think Mike McCarthy maximized the potential of that football team. Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers, they should have won another Super Bowl, guys. That team there was one point where Aaron Rodgers
49 and 34 with the Dallas Cowboys, Kyle. That's incredible.
That's what I'm saying. He's 50 games.
I'm talking about in season. I mean,
he's 50
Dustin,
games.
look at the beginning of the
career as a
beginning of the
coach.
season. They were healthy. This team was healthy. They looked like trash, garbage. They're not a very good. They did not look like a good football team. What changed? You paid Dak Prescott. That's the guy you wanted. You paid CeeDee Lamb. That's the guy you wanted. To start the season off, Micah Parsons was healthy. You had everything you want or are paying for. The three big
Dak
contracts.
Prescott was out in the first month of the season, dude.
Yeah.
The first month of the season, he didn't look very good. He didn't look very good. They won the first game of the season, then they lost 2 after that.
Listen, 49-34 as the Dallas Cowboys head coach. Multiple playoff runs. I mean,
every coach on this list is going to have a winning record. That's why they're on the list. We can go through them right now. Brian Flores had a winning record in Miami. I don't want him to be the coach for Chicago.
He's 11-11 all-time in the playoffs, so he's a 500 playoff coach. He's also in 21, 22, and 23 had a top EPA offense, which for people that know, that's expected and don't know, that's expected points added, commonly referred to as the EPA measurement, tells how much a team performs relative to its expectations. He's in 21, he was 6, 22, he was 7, 23, he was 3rd. In the last 15 years, the Bears have won in 2013, where they finished 6th. So,
all right, Sean. So you just went over how many years in a row did he have a top 10 offense?
3. 21, 22, 23.
Bay, how many in Green Bay?
I didn't look up Green Bay.
Yeah, I mean, so probably cumulatively, 10 seasons where he had a top 5 offense and he's won 1 Super Bowl? That's not maximizing potential. That's you guys are all right. You're settling with making the playoffs.
How many Super Bowls
that's like a Marvin Lewis
are we
kind
expecting as Bears fans here? We haven't had one.
I'll take one.
I'll take one. If you set your expectations here and you fall short and land here, it's better than expecting here and falling short and landing here, correct? If you settle for average, you're going to be average. If Caleb Williams says, I want to be the best quarterback in the world and I want to win 15 Super Bowls more than Tom Brady ever did, you hope you can win 3, right? That's good. That's the same with the coach.
Really quick, Kyle.
You want these guys to fight for excellence, not for good.
This is what Brett Favre had to say here about him.
Mike has done a great job of developing young quarterbacks. So if you're looking at it from that perspective, he's a
perfect. You guys tell me where does Mike McCarthy fall on your list of candidates? If you have to pick your top 5, is he in there?
Based on some of these people, he's jumping up there.
Yeah, but not for me.
He's on my
not for me.
Yeah, he's definitely in the top 5.
If you guys want to look at Mike McCarthy's record or his numbers or what he's done with young quarterbacks, then let me make an argument here. You want me to go over? I'm going to go over Pete Carroll's storied career here real quick. So I could go over Pete Carroll's career, but the history of since what he started coaching, but that'll take too long because he started coaching football in 1970. I mean, you talk about it. You guys have been saying experience, leader of men. He's proven. This is the guy. I mean, this guy, look at the organizations that have hired Pete Carroll. Arkansas.
How many Super Bowls has Pete Carroll won?
Listen, give me a second here. Well, first of all, Pete Carroll didn't have a top 10 quarterback for
30 years. Russell Wilson.
Wilson was an MVP.
He made the worst call in Super Bowl history.
Yes. So once I just said, how long did Mike McCarthy have a top 5 quarterback? His whole career. His whole entire coaching career.
I've never seen James Telfier's name in here, so thank you for being here, James.
Oh, yes. He was here with us he was on Wednesday's show.
Awesome. Very good. Hit that like button.
Sean, Mike McCarthy's had a top 10 quarterback his entire career. Pete Carroll has not. He is not. Besides Russell Wilson,
who we all agree was Dak Prescott a top 5
7 years in his prime. That was it.
Well, let's not go too far down the Mike McCarthy rabbit hole.
Do you guys want to see? You want to hear his record with Russell Wilson, Sean? Pete Carroll, 11-5, 13-3, 12-4, 10-6, 10-5-1, 9-7, 10-6, 11-5, 12-4.
They also had the Legion of
records when
they also had the Legion of Boom. No one could pass on that
defense.
team.
Yeah, and Pete Carroll can put together a good
defense. Who was the coach for that Legion of Boom? Who developed all those players? Also Pete Carroll. Thank you. Thank you for making my point. Back to the point.
Here, and again, as you said that, if we were to go over Mike McCarthy's records, they're going to be very similar. The guy is over 50 games over 500 in his career as a coach.
Sean, at USC, Pete Carroll was 97-19.
I don't care about
record.
College. I don't care about college.
97-19.
I don't care about college.
You don't care about college, but Marcus Freeman's a good candidate to be head coach for the Chicago Bears.
I'll tell you why I don't care about college.
Back to my point, though.
This
guy has been hired by Iowa State, Ohio State, Arkansas, the Bills, the Vikings, the Jets, the 49ers, the Patriots, USC, and the Seattle Seahawks. Some of the best organizations in all of football. Since he's been hired by all those teams in his career, he has a career record of 170 wins, 120 losses,
Only
and one
he's
tie in the
working with
NFL.
Pete
His
Carroll,
record in the
Mike
UFC is 97-19. This guy has won
Yeah.
and changed cultures everywhere he's ever gone,
I love
and
Pete Carroll.
has been really good at developing
love
young
Pete Carroll.
quarterbacks. You talk about good at developing young quarterbacks. This guy signed a backup from Green Bay for $80 million contract,
Matt
drafted
Flynn.
Russell Wilson the same year, and it took about 10 seconds to decide that Russell Wilson was going to be the starter over Matt Flynn. He's an absolutely amazing football coach, and he instills culture.
I don't think
You want to
anyone's
talk about a guy
belittling
who instills a
Pete Carroll.
finds
Oh,
an
yeah. I'm
identity.
high on Pete Carroll.
Pete Carroll is the guy. That's the guy. This is the guy you want.
Listen, but if you're having a list that has Mike McCarthy on it and Pete Carroll on it, that list starts to look pretty good after you lose a guy like Mike Vrabel. That's kind of the point. I think Mike McCarthy can't just be, completely shoved aside and say, I want Pete Carroll, but not Mike McCarthy. They're very similar in terms of their success in the NFL.
I don't know if you guys noticed or not.
They're very similar in terms of how they instill
90%
a culture.
of the Bears list have been head coaches in the NFL. I know people aren't really paying attention. 90% of the Bears list have been head coaches.
I honestly think
they now have Ron Rivera. Thomas Brown was interim head coach. Mike Vrabel was on there. They have Mike McCarthy, Brian Flores, Arthur Smith, Joe Brady, Cliff Kingsbury. Marcus Freeman's a head coach in college. Almost all of these guys were head coaches at some point in their career. Almost every single one.
Joe Brady's never been a head coach.
Joe Brady's never been a head coach. He just
wasn't he an interim coach at Carolina?
No, he was the interim offensive coordinator, I think.
So take Joe Brady off the list. But you still, like I said, Ron Rivera, Thomas Brown was there.
When it comes down to it, Kyle, I'm going to say I think the Bears are going to have 5, and the 5 are going to be Carroll, McCarthy, Monken, Johnson, and who's the other one that I was thinking? I don't know. I guess I don't know outside of those 4. Maybe Joe Brady, you can throw Joe Brady if he keeps doing a
I don't understand why it sounds like people in this pod, like Arthur. I don't think, maybe to us it's a joke, guys, but Brian Flores is not a joke to the Chicago Bears. This is not a joke. Like, they're not like, we're just moving Brian Flores to get intel on the Vikings. This guy is in their head coaching search. He's in the top 5.
With the news that came out today, and we talked about McCarthy a lot, but I just want to ask this question because I think it's important before we move on to more head coaching stuff.
Yeah.
How much does the Cowboys now being an opening for a head coaching position affect the Chicago Bears in their search? We went from.
Who did I tell you earlier, Dustin?
You brought up Deion Sanders, which I would love, but the Dallas Cowboys immediately jumped to the top of this list. People were debating a couple of days ago after the Patriots came off the board if the Bears or the Jaguars was a better place to be as a head coach. The Cowboys are jumping above both of them. How does that impact this Bears head coaching search in you guys' mind? I think it's a big deal.
What you think, Brando?
Dennis Booty's on
They become front runners for Pete Carroll. Absolutely. I think Jerry Jones is going to know what he wants. Jerry Jones is not going to have a list of 20 names, guys.
I'm glad you bring up Jerry Jones because that's the problem with Dallas, and I think
he
they all
knows
know
most of these people personally. He's probably has some sort of relationship with Pete Carroll. I'd imagine he's going to call a guy like Pete Carroll, who's going to take the place of a guy like Mike McCarthy, and he's, like I said, he's probably Kyle. When you were arguing between the two, I think Pete Carroll's just a better version of Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, I was going to say, and the Cowboys are going to get better with Pete Carroll instead of Mike McCarthy. We hire Mike McCarthy.
I was never disagreeing with you in the first place. I think Pete Carroll's a better candidate for the Bears than Mike McCarthy is, but I do have Mike McCarthy in the top 5. If you're giving me the list of 20 names you just read me from the Bears.
Yeah.
100%. Dennis Moody says Ben Johnson going to Dallas, and that's kind of my point. It's like, does Dallas kind of get its pick of the litter now over the Bears? Isn't that kind of like if they want Ben Johnson?
Here's the deal.
I think you guys think the NFL respects Jerry Jones more than they do. I think you guys think Jerry Jones is held to like this high. Everybody in the NFL respects and loves him, and he's this great guy.
It's about the Cowboys, dude. It's America.
He's your boss, whether it's about the Cowboys or not. I mean, he's your boss. How many people could they pick out of when they picked Mike McCarthy? I mean, I don't know if that's enough anymore.
I lost my train of thought there. Chet.
We were talking about Ben Johnson. Does he become the choice?
Dallas. Ben Johnson ended his interviews. He said, I'm done. I'm focusing on winning a championship. Yep. So his first round of interviews, and there will be no more interviews with him, according to what I read today, until after this postseason is over. So Dallas, a little bit behind the 8 ball, but you can also see them coming in. They have those nice pieces, Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb. They have a great their tight end, Jake Ferguson. I mean, they have a really good team. I could see it. I mean, it's Dallas
on defense too.
and that freaking stadium. I mean, and I could see Pete Carroll going there. I still think Ben Johnson is the choice in Chicago. I think he wants the Chicago job. I think Ben Johnson wants to coach Caleb Williams. That's just my personal opinion. I don't know if there's any truth behind it.
I just think that the Cowboys, I mean, first of all, them getting into the game this late suggests that they're willing to wait as long as they need to.
Sure.
If they're parting ways with their coach at this point, after all these openings have already been available, that means that they're in it for the long game to find the right coach for them. I think that what Dennis Moody's saying right here, you can't outspend Jerry Jones. You can't outmarket Jerry Jones. Like, Jerry Jones is going to be very make that job very appealing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And my biggest concern becomes, like, Vrabel and Ben Johnson have been the top two candidates for everybody basically throughout this whole process. Vrabel's already off the board, and a lot of Bears fans want Ben Johnson. I could see Ben Johnson getting lured by a team like the Cowboys or even a team like the Raiders. And what does that say about the Chicago Bears franchise, guys?
I'm so glad you went in on the Raiders, because I'm ready to destroy that.
Real quick though, where does the blank check thing come from? I'd like to know where that comes from.
The what?
Blank check. Where does that come from?
Well, because he's just saying that
from all accounts, Mike McCarthy and the Dallas Cowboys went separate ways because they were unwilling to pay Mike McCarthy. They didn't fire him, guys.
Well, being unwilling to pay Mike McCarthy is a lot different than being unwilling to pay Ben Johnson.
And I want
free agent, and they wouldn't pony up enough money to keep him. And to the point about he'll spend. The Cowboys are negative in the salary cap space. So what you have on your team right now, that's based besides the draft, that's what's going to be on the team next year.
I think too, this whole salary cap thing with the Saints and these guys, coaches are coming in with that expectation that some money is going to come off the books, and over the next couple of years, you're going to be able to build your roster. Not every situation is going to be absolutely perfect just to walk into. But if you have the parts, you can be competitive and you can win, and you have a good system and you have a good management system. That's what Ben Johnson's looking for. I don't know. Jerry Jones tends to butt in a little bit too much, and that might be the separator between Ben Johnson and him. I don't think he wants that over him, and Jerry Jones is very into everything.
But Sean, when you're suggesting that these teams are going to have patience because of the situations that they're in, you're in it for the long game, whereas with the Bears, your GM is fighting for his fucking career and needs to win immediately, so the patience is not going to be there the same. It just isn't.
Well, Dustin, here's the thing. Here's the thing for me. The Bears had almost a 50-day head start on everybody else, but everyone else seems to be ahead of them already. So I think today I read something that with them firing McCarthy, the Bears had a 46-day head start on the Dallas Cowboys. So if we have this big of a head start on everybody else and we don't end up with our guy, much like I don't think we did with Eberflus, this is just be another freaking disaster.
Well, people
that's my concern.
People say the things that the Bears have done shows dysfunction. The notorious TBG. I don't understand how you cannot agree with this. The Cowboys not letting the Bears interview Mike McCarthy and then firing him the next week because they couldn't come to a contract agreement is not a good look to me. I agree with you 100%. That is 100% dysfunction. If they didn't like Mike McCarthy enough to pay him, they didn't want him there. They should have fired him the Monday after the season was over. The fact that they didn't do that,
or let him move on
these contract negotiations, agreement, and then they let it. They were like, "Oh, we can't extend you. You're too much money." That's not a good look for the Cowboys. They should have just fired him. If they weren't happy with Mike McCarthy, they should have fired him. If Mike McCarthy is such a good coach, how is he not capable of winning a Super Bowl? That Ben Johnson's just going to walk in and win a Super Bowl with the same team? They have no money to spend in free agency. All they have is their draft class. That's it. So these 6 draft picks that some might not even make the team are going to make all of a sudden that this team that was so good, Mike McCarthy couldn't win a Super Bowl with, all of a sudden they're going to be Super Bowl winners next year. I don't see it. I don't believe
it's
it.
a team that won.
Micah Parsons still has to be paid. Micah Parsons still has to be paid, and they don't have any money.
And too, with the thing with the paying,
they're going to franchise tag them. That's what they're going to do.
Paying these guys money. I mean, Matt Eberflus, and there is no concrete evidence of exactly what his contract was, but he was making about $5 million a year. So if you add that up, that's going to be, about $15 million for the 3 years he was here. I think the Bears will pony up a little bit more for a head coach if that's what it takes. That's just me, but
yeah, for sure. It
really
just comes
quick
down to your confidence level, in this franchise to do the right thing. That's what it comes down to.
I want to say
real quick. Can you guys agree that the Bears have the best of both worlds when it comes to free agency draft and a quarterback? Every other team either does not have a lot of money in free agency and not a lot of draft picks, or don't have a quarterback. The Bears
Sure.
have both.
Well, besides
the
the
only team in
Patriots, who already hired their coach.
Yeah, the Patriots, but they're hired. Their
Yeah.
coach has been hired, so it doesn't matter. But I agree. Yeah, the Patriots. I think the Patriots
They were
were
in a
front
better
runners
position
over the Bears. They have Drake May. They have a lot more money, almost double the amount of money the Chicago Bears, and they have just
higher
as many
draft
draft
pick.
picks as we do.
Yeah.
So the Patriots would have been my number one pick. The Raiders have a lot of room in free agency, but the Raiders don't have a lot of picks, and they don't have a quarterback. Ben Johnson's going to, if you Ben Johnson, you go to the Raiders, you better expect to suck for the next 2 years. Who in this quarterback class is going to come in and save the Oakland Raiders or the Las Vegas Raiders? Nobody. There's nobody in this quarterback class that's capable of doing that. It's not going to happen.
This is where I was trying to go with the Raiders and these people out here saying that the Raiders are a better job than the Bears. You still have Mark Davis, who's considered by many to be an awful owner. He's got a lot of criticisms about these frequent coaching changes, his terrible decision-making, his inability to build a sustainable, winnable roster or put together a sustainable, winnable roster. Let's not forget here, guys, he seems to be a little bit more of an oddball than George McCaskey. He, since 2021, has had 4 GMs in place. He's also had 3 coaches in place during that time. For me, I'm just sitting here thinking like, 5% Tom Brady makes it more attractive for Ben Johnson to go there.
5% ownership, but what's the percentage of his involvement in decision making?
Well, it can't be that much.
He's a 5% owner.
Mark
Davis is still
Mark
the puppet
Davis
master.
wanted him in there for a reason, and if he's going to give him the green light to make football decisions and help make those decisions, that makes a big difference.
The $200 million contract he signed for broadcasting, part of the contract negotiating was he was supposed to be a silent owner for the Las Vegas Raiders because
Correct.
he has pregame interviews with teams where he's saying, "Hey, what's your game plan this game?" Just like all the announcers do, and they talk about it during the game. How could he be having those conversations if he has a investment in a team he wants to win the Super Bowl? If he gets involved in that coaching search, something's going to change.
Reported by everyone that Tom Brady is heavily involved in the coaching search.
Something's going to change.
The least appealing
what he wants to do.
appealing aspect of that Vegas job is that the AFC West is a juggernaut of coaches. So you better feel damn good about yourself if you're going to go coach against Andy Reid, Jim Harbaugh, and Sean Payton, who are going to be there for the next decade.
Well, could be
that has got us.
It's the same thing in the NFC North.
Yeah, but that for me then cancels it out.
Because you're not, like Dustin said about the North as well, you're not going to win your division next year, no matter how good you are, coach.
Yeah, the odds are really low. The Notorious asked, did we answer who we're rooting for, Vikings or Rams? I'm rooting for the Rams, but I think the Vikings are going to win. We made our picks earlier in the show.
The Rams.
I think Sean had the Rams. He's got the Rams. Kyle, you got the Vikings. Brandon's got the Vikings. So, but we're rooting for
I bet the Rams plus 120 as well.
Everybody's rooting for the Rams. We're all Bears fans. We hate the Vikings. We hate the Packers. We hate the Lions. We're all rooting for the Rams.
Yes, sir.
The game is about to start, and I have it focused right here. We'll stay in tune.
Joe Buck and Troy Aikman.
Oh,
I don't know, man. To me personally, if you guys talk about this coaching search from an outside perspective, I mean, it's easy to be Bears fans and be like, "Oh, we're such a dysfunctional team, franchise, all this." If you're a coach and the Bears say so you're a coaching candidate. Listen, and the Bears offer you
because they are dysfunctional and they have not been successful. That's why
I understand that. But what I'm saying is, if Ben Johnson can make generational money for his family, his kids from the Chicago Bears, if he says I want $30 million to guarantee, the Bears say okay, yes. It doesn't matter the dysfunction. He's going to take that check. He's going to become the Bears coach, and he's going to succeed with Caleb Williams, Roma Dunze, DJ Moore. Probably going to sign somebody. I'm hearing that the Bears are not going to resign Keenan Allen and look for somebody more like Chris Godwin. Somebody's going to be here for a long time. And then on top of that, you have a defense that for the first 8 weeks of the season last year was the top 10 in every statistical category you could possibly be in until they started losing guys like Brisker and Billings. This is a win now scenario for any potential head coach that comes here. It really is. And on top of all that, the Bears have a competitive team to begin with, excluding the offensive line and defensive line. They now have $85 million and 8 draft picks to fix those two issues.
Yeah, and if you sign Chris Godwin, you're going to spend $85 million on him. Why in the world?
I heard it's $64 million. The Bears are 7th in the league at $64
you would just pay him his annual salary this year. So if you say it's $18 million.
Why would Keenan Allen not be cheaper than Chris Godwin?
Because Keenan Allen's been a top 10 receiver in the NFL for the last 15 years. Chris Godwin's been top 15 to 20 on a good year.
Notorious TBG brings up the fact that Cunningham's made it to the second round of interviews for the Titans GM spot. Be nice to get some some of those draft picks, those compensatory draft picks, if he goes and signs there, that'd be a little extra.
Picks would be. You can have Ian Cunningham. Please go to Tennessee.
Yes.
We get 2 more third-round picks.
Yes, thank you
guys,
for bringing that up.
Really quick, and I know this might not be popular with any of you guys. I just wanted to get your opinion on it. This is a topic, and I know it's one of favorites of Virginia McCaskey. What do you guys think of Chico Rivera coming here to be the head coach of the Chicago Bears? If not, at least maybe this interview leads to him being a defensive coordinator. What are you guys' thoughts on this? Brandon, why don't you start us off here, buddy?
I'm good.
No, you don't want Chico at all?
I'm good.
That's some real in-depth analysis, Brandon.
No, I don't. He's always managed to keep his teams competitive.
Yeah,
but he runs a very old-fashioned system, and it seems like I thought when Chase Young and John Allen and Montez Sweat, those guys were on that line, that defense was going to just dominate the NFL, and I thought they fell pretty far short of expectations. His teams compete, but they're never good.
Besides the 15-1 team,
I believe that there's Sean. I guess I'll say I believe that there's better defensive coordinator candidates out there, and I don't want to hire because of nostalgia. You know what I mean?
Oh, hell no.
Yeah.
No, I feel you.
Look at that Washington defense last year. They were a sieve. They were awful. They didn't really make a lot of changes to that defense, guys. Dan Quinn was the biggest change to that defense, and they're a playoff team, and they get stops when they need them. That's the biggest indictment against Ron Rivera to me. If he's a defensive coach, his team has been awful on defense for the last 2 years. He was the head coach there, and a lot of the same players are now playing a lot better with Dan Quinn this year, man.
Yeah, I agree. For me, it goes as far as he had an overall record in Washington of 26-40-1. I'm out, man. I'm sorry, but if you have all these options with all these guys who have proven sustained success in the NFL, why would you go hire a guy that proved he could not sustain success in the NFL? It just doesn't make sense to me. He had one good season. To me, it was more of a flash in the pan. Obviously, he did not do a good job. I don't think he did a good job developing Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk Cousins got better the more he got away from.
So the 15-1 is a flash in the pan for you.
I would hire Dennis.
I would hire. It wasn't really a part of the Kirk Cousins era. That was more.
And RG3 too. RG3 was there too when he got there.
That was more Shanahan guys.
I think they were both still there when he got there.
I would hire Dennis Allen before Ron Rivera.
I'm with you.
I know he had Ryan Fitzpatrick. I know Ron Rivera had Ryan Fitzpatrick at one point in his career. I know that. And Ryan Fitzpatrick had a decent season. But Sean, yeah, you say like it's a flash in the pan. Sean, the Bears 2018 season, whatever, the double doink, flash in the pan, right? I mean, it happens. Teams play well certain years. Things go their way. It happens. We've seen it before. We've seen it plenty of times. I don't think he can sustain success. I don't think he's a good leader of men. I think he's a good defensive coordinator. And if he was a defensive coordinator option, I would not be upset at all if the Bears interviewed him. But I would not be interviewing for head coach. No.
I don't want him as a defensive coordinator either. I don't want any part of him.
I know we touched on this guy a little bit earlier, Marcus Freeman, and I know we're all really big high on him. And I didn't really get a chance to say I really like him too. I thought he's done a masterful job in his 3 years at Notre Dame thus far. This year has been amazing. There are a couple of things that bother me. One is we don't know his level of being able to develop a quarterback. The second thing that worries me a little bit is he has 0 NFL coaching experience. And the third thing that bothers me, I don't know what his connections are in the NFL to build a quality staff. And if we're looking at saying, hey, we're going to bring in Marcus Freeman and we're going to bring in a college staff, those are just the 3 things that bother me. Just playing devil's advocate because I am a big fan of Marcus Freeman. I don't want to get that twisted. But those are the 3 things that concern me. You guys have all talked about you want experience. And you guys, well, he's been an experienced head coach because he's only been a head coach for 3 years at the college level. So that's just.
Do we not think that Caleb Williams is going to turn into an Aaron Rodgers type a guy that's going to take care of his own business, that's going to help himself get better. I mean, obviously you need the coaching to help those things along, but Caleb Williams is very accountable to his mistakes. Caleb Williams is always trying to get better. And I think Marcus Freeman could hire a really good offensive coordinator. So, I mean, like, I think those things kind of take care of themselves. I think the Bears' biggest need is a complete culture switch. And Marcus Freeman is a guy who brings that because he brings energy, he brings accountability, he brings responsibility, and he brings leadership. And those are the Bears' biggest needs, guys. Caleb Williams is going to take care of itself. Caleb Williams is a good quarterback. He's only going to get better. Obviously, you want to help that process along, but I think it starts at the top, and then you hire the guys to help in that process with Caleb. I think you need the leader first and foremost. Run the football, play defense. Marcus Freeman does those things really freaking well. Really well. He knows that those things are important.
Brando, Kyle, thoughts?
I think he has the qualities that stand out to me when I watch Freeman coach. Man, the things that the Bears have lacked the most. Like Dustin said, accountability and leadership. I don't care what level you've done it at, because I mean they're men either way, right? Marcus Freeman is a leader. He leads his team. And like I said, we did this on the bare minimum, guys. We talked about him a bit. He's very, very involved with his coaches at all aspects of the game. When his offense had to run a few plays, he went and spoke to his offensive coordinator. When the field goal kicker came out to try to win the game, he went and spoke to his special teams coordinator. He's just, I don't know. To me, he defines the quality of a person who should be a head coach in the NFL. Like, he is the mold of an NFL head coach. And Dustin's right. The guy is going to coach in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree.
Would you love
why not get in front of it? Why not get in front of it?
The team that gets your hands on that before it happens? Sure, I would.
Listen, Mike McCarthy is expected to meet with the Bears this week, guys. That's reported.
I don't expect in here. I don't know. Kyle, did you have any thoughts on Marcus Freeman?
I mean, I like Marcus Freeman a lot. I mean, first of all, I'll say before we can get into this conference, I mean, I honestly don't believe it's a realistic opportunity. I just think he's happy where he is at Notre Dame. I think it's a little too early for Marcus Freeman, but I will say, as much as I do like Marcus Freeman, and I agree with Brendan and Dustin, I think he's a really great leader of men. I think you could tell he obviously has these kids playing their asses off, but I think the transition from the college level to the NFL level, even as a coach, is tough, man. I mean, you're talking about, he's a 40-year-old talking to 18, 19, 20-year-olds. Of course they're listening to him. He's a 40-year-old coming here talking to 30, 35-year-olds. Might be a different story. I do think that Marcus Freeman could be a really good coach in the NFL and for the Bears, but I do also believe that he would be one of the riskiest coaches to hire because you don't know what you're going to get from him at the NFL level. You just don't know.
That's kind of where I am, but I will be honest. Because I do agree with Brandon and Dustin. If they did hire him, it wouldn't make me fall out of my chair like they did when they hired Matt Eberflus. So I wouldn't be like, God damn, they screwed this up again. I'd be like, okay, let's see what we can do now.
That's a move for the future, guys. That's a move for the now and the future in my mind. Again, you see the Bears constantly behind the trends. You see the Bears constantly playing catch up and trying to fix mistakes by going back and trying to rehash old things that they could have gotten in front of. Marcus Freeman is a guy that if you can get him in the building, I want that guy because you can establish something for you can establish your identity for the next 10 to 15 years. The guy's 39 years old, man.
Yeah.
If he turns into something big,
he could be our Mike Tomlin.
That's the perspective to have, Kyle, is that Freeman's 39, Ben Johnson's 38. Freeman's been a head coach for 3 years.
What's up, man?
Not the NFL level,
when you're talking about a 40-year-old who's coaching now grown men versus these collegiate kids, Freeman's still the man. Freeman's still the man in a room full of men.
Well, I understand that, but
if anybody over an NFL roster in locker room.
But Brennan, there's nobody who can absolutely in any way, shape, or form possibly deny the fact that coaching at the college level is different than coaching in the NFL. You can't say it's the exact same thing. Any coach who's coached both in the world would tell you it's not the exact same thing. It's completely different. You just don't know what you're going to get out of Marcus Freeman when he gets to that point. I'm not saying I don't like Marcus Freeman. I like him a lot. I'd be happy if the Bears hire him, but I just don't think it's realistic.
You guys I've heard that mentioned multiple times about the college versus the NFL.
Yeah.
In college, you are constantly making moves, especially now with the NIL and the portal.
Recruiting and transfer
It's
portal.
changed things an awful lot. Marcus Freeman is 24/7, 365,
still different.
focused on making
It's
his team
always
better,
going
the
to be
same as an
different.
NFL head coach would.
You're recruiting. You don't have a limited spending amount. When you're in the NFL, he can only pick a certain amount of free agents. When he's a college coach, he can go up to any high schooler in the world and be like, "Come to Notre Dame.
Well,
I'll
Notre
make you a
Dame is
star."
limited.
He can't
Notre
do that
Dame
in the
has always
NFL.
been
He's going to
limited
be able to
in
sign 3 free agents in the offseason.
Right?
Notre Dame is not Alabama in terms of just being able to
I
get
understand
any
that, but
recruit.
recruiting
That's
is a
true.
completely
It's
different
not the
game
same.
than signing free agents. That's two
Aren't
totally
they,
different
aren't they,
things.
aren't they a Catholic school?
Yeah,
They
and
are.
and you got to have good grades. They actually make sure that
You have to be a
you
good
do your
recruiter in
study.
college. You don't have to do that in the NFL. In the NFL, you have to be good at spending money. You have to be good at
Well, that's
knowing
for
how to-
Ryan
learning
Poles
how
to
to
do.
spend
That's
money.
not Marcus Freeman's job.
Oh yeah, but Marcus Freeman's going to be the one asking him for which players he wants, man. Like, hey,
Of
I
course,
want this guy
yes,
out of the
yes.
draft.
But
I want
the
this guy in
finances
free
are
agency.
not on the
Yeah.
coach.
And
And
Brian
that's one
Post has
thing
to be like, hey, we don't have that much
The guy
money.
who just came from college might be a good guy to have in your personnel room when you're drafting players this offseason.
And might be a good guy to have with a young team.
Yeah.
Like I said,
again,
I have
I
no
would not
problem
be
with the Bears
upset.
talking to Marcus Freeman. I wouldn't be upset if they sign. I'm just saying, in terms of risk, he's probably a little bit higher than a guy like Pete
And I agree
Carroll,
with that as
or
well.
a guy who's done it in the NFL and college for 50 years and been successful everywhere he's gone. You're going to have more risk hiring a guy who's 39 years old, has only been head coach football for 3 years, and he has never experienced being a coach in the NFL. There's going to be some
There's
risk.
some risk to it. I agree
Gonna be some
100%.
risk.
Yeah, he's gonna win a national championship, guys. So
No, he's not. No, he's not.
I'm taking Ohio State. I
Ohio
want
State's
Notre
gonna
Dame
win
to
that
win.
game.
I want Notre Dame to win, but I'm taking Ohio State.
Hey, really quick, I got one more coaching candidate, and I just want to get your guys' opinion on this guy. He's a dark horse, and people haven't been talking about him yet, but I think we should throw his hat in the ring because everybody else's hat is in the ring. How about my boy, Smoking Jay Cutler? Come on, baby. Let's bring him in. What do you guys think? Jay Cutler, come on.
That's a lot of risk.
I thought you were going to throw a picture
a
of
lot
like
more risk
Donald
than Marcus
McDonald
Freeman
out there or something. I don't know. Like you can honestly throw anybody out there right now with this Bears coaching search, and it might be believable. Jay Cutler is definitely not a leader.
I'm just kidding.
No, he's
Yeah,
not.
I was totally kidding.
I have a legitimate guy that
Tony Romo would have been a leak that I would have believed if somebody had pitched that.
I have a legitimate guy that I want to throw out here and just get you guys' thoughts on it because we've talked about it a little bit. But I mean, Mike Tomlin, I've saw more of it on ESPN today. People talking about, is it time for the Steelers to move on from Mike Tomlin? That is gaining steam and traction. Like where there's smoke, there's fire in the NFL, guys. If Mike Tomlin gets let go out of his contract with the Steelers, he becomes number one, right?
Number one for me. He's number one for me. He's number one for me.
Number one. He's number one. He's 100%
Darius,
number one.
Yes.
And you hire him the day, like the day of.
Yes.
Like
you could have Benjohnson ready to sign his contract, and you find out that Mike Tomlin is no longer the head coach of the Steelers, and you say, "Hey, Benjohnson, we're just going to take a little recess here. Hold on a second." And
I love the people.
Can Mike use that pen real quick?
People keep saying people are like Ben Roethlisberger. Since Ben Roethlisberger left, Mike Tomlin's 3-11 in the playoffs. I'm like, oh, that sucks that you guys go to the playoffs every single year and don't win games. That must be such a terrible life to be a Steelers fan over there. If they chase Mike Tomlin out of town, they're going to regret it. They don't know what they're doing. Mike Tomlin's not the problem with the Steelers. The problem with the Steelers since Ben Roethlisberger left is the quarterback. Steelers have never had a quarterback. The fact that the Steelers have made the playoffs with some of the quarterbacks that they've had
is more
Kenny Pickett is absolutely amazing.
Pair Mike Tomlin with Caleb Williams, dude. Jesus Christ. Mike Tomlin is the ultimate leader in the NFL, guys.
Yeah, that is my top candidate. You can make him the GM.
Do you guys
just hire a different coach? I'd be happy.
Marcus Freeman's predecessor should get calls from the NFL. Brian Kelly, who's the coach of LSU now.
Fuck no.
No.
Well, I'll tell you this.
I thought Brian Kelly was more of an NFL coach than Chip Kelly when he was hired.
Really quick on Tomlin. The Steelers have had 3 coaches in their history I would pump the brakes until it actually happens because
No, I want. It's
an
a
organization that's really
I'm
loyal.
just saying it's gaining steam. If the Steelers would be crazy to let Mike Tomlin go. He would have to leave willingly, and I don't think he wants to do that. And the Steelers, I don't think, want to part with him. But if that were to be the case, he immediately jumps to number one. And I don't even care about Mike Vrabel anymore. Vrabel was my number one, but if Tomlin was on that list, it wouldn't really be close.
Hey, Aunt Mass, we did talk about LaFleur, but I don't think I said it earlier. I thought this was one of his worst coach games. I thought that
Is
first
he talking about LaFleur on Green Bay, or is he talking about LaFleur with the Rams?
If he's talking about LaFleur on Green Bay, I thought that was one of his worst coach games ever that he's had.
Mike, I think
he's talking about LaFleur on the Rams, the offensive coordinator.
Mike.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I believe his name is Mike LaFleur.
Oh, he's saying Green Bay. Okay. No.
Green Bay's upset. Green Bay's upset with Matt LaFleur. Green Bay's fan base right now is upset with Matt LaFleur.
Yeah, they want him fired. They're fucking idiots. But I thought he just I was saying this to myself, man, in the first half. I'm like, Jesus, man, this game plan, the offensive game plan in the first half of that game was atrocious. Was absolutely terrible.
The Packers seem to start slow on offense. Listen, I think all these conversations about like the Niners with Kyle Shanahan was a popular thing earlier, and now Tomlin with the Steelers, LaFleur with Green Bay. I think it's all just pipe dreams. These teams would be crazy to let them go, and these fan bases don't know what they're missing. They need to come be Chicago Bears fans for a couple years and realize what the fuck he's got.
Hey, just so you became an NFL head coach, Matt LaFleur is
that was a hell of a
second winningest coach in the NFL.
Hey, Stafford has 2 passes, back-to-back 25-yard catches. Puka Nacua and Tyler Higbee. They're marching right down the field. They're on the 20-yard line.
Good. Let's have a shootout. That helps the bet big time.
Very
Puka
good.
Got the ball again. No, I think they would be crazy. But if they did fire LaFleur, I would clap my hands and be very, very happy.
I wouldn't want LaFleur. I wouldn't.
No, but if you want to take a good coach, a quality coach away from the Packers, awesome. Do it, please.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. LaFleur's clock management and game management is another. There's been so much questionable stuff happening with these head coaches all season, honestly, that I've seen. But I mean, LaFleur constantly does things that I question in terms of his clock and game management. His offensive game plans usually are pretty good, but like you said, these Packers, the Packers start out slow every game. It seems like against a good team. So. Seems like he's getting out schemed by these defensive coordinators. Especially
the Packers really didn't beat a really good team this season.
They were 1-5 versus teams over 500 this year.
They were 0-6 against the Vikings, the Lions, and the Eagles.
And almost got swept out of the division. If it wasn't for that block kick, they would have been almost.
Jordan Love had a lot to do with that. That Jordan Love, that interception he threw down the right sideline where he had Wilson wide open on the left side of the field, the running back with blockers, and he decided to throw that 50-50 ball. I mean, that's Jordan Love had a terrible game. His vision has not been good this year, and I think that's who he is.
There we go.
That is such a weird picture, man.
I'm confused.
Anyway,
Jordan Love.
Guys, who's your guy? I mean, you said your top 5 list. Sean, is it still Ben Johnson for you?
It's Ben Johnson, and I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. Todd Monken is nipping at those heels, man. Like I really like Todd Monken, man. I think he's earned it. He deserves it. And I would be very happy if he got it here in Chicago.
When are the Bears getting that interview with Monken? When is that happening? Has it even been accepted?
It said requested or scheduled. It didn't say whether or not it was actually.
I don't think they can do it now because they said when the teams have a playoff game, they can't interview from Wednesday to Thursday or something. So as long as the Ravens or Wednesday to Sunday, so as long as they stay active, I don't think they're going to be able to interview them. Ooh.
Yeah, and the Bears are in this for the long haul. It looks like because all the people they're looking at are deep in these playoffs, man. Kyle, who's your number 1 guy?
It's still Ben Johnson. I still want Ben Johnson to be the Bears head coach. I think that would be the best quarterback head coach marriage of all the candidates we've talked about. But I mean, I wouldn't be upset at all if Pete Carroll was hired here. That wouldn't upset me. I think he's capable of. I mean, he's the youngest 73 years old I've ever seen in my life, man. That guy has plenty of energy left. He's got plenty of life left in him. I think if
every
it's
place
not
he's been too, Kyle, he leaves behind a good system that's still working. The team is still successful after he's gone. It's not like it's just they suck because he left. So I think that concern about his short-term, potential with the Bears could be overrated, because if he's putting things in place that I want, a guy that's going to put things in place that are going to last, and I think Pete Carroll is capable of that.
Yeah,
Brandon,
and his career, his playoff record in his career is 11-9, so he still has a winning playoff record. So Pete Carroll is definitely top of my list. I'd say number 3 if I couldn't get those guys would be Marcus Freeman, but like I said, I just don't think that's realistic.
That might be a pipe dream.
You're not a fan of Todd Monken?
I like Todd Monken. I just don't know. I mean, this guy is now what? And he's in his 60s, right? Mid 60s.
Close. I don't know. He's 58. He's 58.
Why has he never been given a head coaching opportunity before? That's what scares me a little bit about Todd Monken, man.
Yeah, is he just another Greg Roman?
Touchdown, Kyron Williams, boys.
Yeah. Justin, I think Pete Carroll is my selection for sure, because I think even if Mike Vrabel is off the board, you can't lose sight of the fact that you're trying to hire culture here. Most importantly,
100%.
And I think that's the best remaining option. I thought Pete Carroll, honestly, when it comes to culture, is probably a better choice than Mike Vrabel. He was just a much older choice. So now that Vrabel has been hired, Carroll would be my number 1 target. As far as I hear, Carroll and the Bears is kind of heating up.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing too.
Yeah, I like Pete Carroll a lot, guys.
He loves the interview.
I do. I think that's the thing the Bears need the most, is that leader and that culture setter. I just feel like, I mean, the way this thing started and the way it ends, I don't know, but like Ben Johnson and Mike Vrabel were those guys. The Bears, from what I've heard, they pushed for Vrabel once they realized the Patriots were about to snatch him up. They tried to make a push for him, but they didn't even bring him in the building, guys, when they could have. They did a virtual interview with Vrabel, and they didn't have to. And then, once you find out that he's going to get snatched up, you want to start trying to make a late push for him. I don't understand it. If you let Vrabel go and then you lose out on Ben Johnson, I think a lot of Bears fans are going to be really upset. Ben Johnson is number 1 on both of you guys' list for a reason. What I love most about Ben Johnson is his run game and his run game principles, and how creative he can be with the run. Now, how much of that is Jahmyr Gibbs and Montgomery and that offensive line? But he will focus on the offensive line and improving that. That will be his number 1 priority if he were to be hired as the Bears head coach. I just worry that the Bears, again, paralysis by analysis, the casting a wide net makes sense, and hopefully they're in this for the long haul. We talked about it. Kevin O'Connell got hired in February. He was the offensive coordinator for the Rams when they went to the Super Bowl. The Vikings waited a long time. They were the last ones to hire, right, to make that hire, and it turned out really well for them. So that could happen for the Bears here, but you just worry about perception, and then you worry about, is Vrabel going to go be really successful in New England, and then the Bears end up with another, if they choose Anthony Weaver, or if they, or they choose Matt Campbell or one of these guys on this list that were nowhere near the top of anyone's list, and then we end up in the same predicament again in 3 years, guys. That's my biggest concern.
I hate to say, but Matt Campbell and Anthony Weaver are like Bears hires, man. They just seem like that's where we'll end up after all of this, and all these other guys go have success someplace else. I don't know.
It seems it feels like the Bearsiest hire.
Matt Campbell,
after interviewing him for an offensive coordinator position last year,
Cliff Kingsbury,
deeming him not good enough, hiring Cliff Kingsbury then as your head coach, it just doesn't make sense. To say we brought him in as an offensive coordinator, he actually worked with the quarterback we were drafting 1st overall.
Made perfect sense.
But he just didn't fit the mold. He wasn't good enough for us.
Hired an offensive coordinator and then fired them.
But to be the boss of an offensive coordinator,
yeah,
that's a different conversation.
I will.
So now, guys, as far as I'm concerned, if you're the Bears, I don't know why he's on this list. You should have eliminated yourself from the Cliff Kingsbury race because he wasn't good enough when you wanted him for a lesser position.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point.
It's a really good point. It's a really good point. The only thing that scares me about Pete Carroll, and I know it shouldn't because obviously the circumstances were different, but He hired Shane Waldron. That scares the shit out of me, dude.
But Shane Waldron was actually did a pretty
He
decent job.
He had a veteran quarterback, so it was
Yeah.
different. And he didn't know how to develop a young quarterback. He was putting Caleb in harm's way too often. But no, Pete Carroll I think would be a great hire for the Bears. I hope it comes down, guys, to Pete Carroll or Ben Johnson. I think that's the.
I wouldn't be mad at Aaron Glenn. I would not be mad at Aaron Glenn. I know you guys are not with me on that, really.
I haven't looked into Aaron Glenn enough to be. I'm not with you. I have to look more into him. I have to look at the defensive numbers in Detroit there.
Can I ask you guys?
They're not great, but he's a great leader, that guy, and he's gotten a lot out of a little in terms of the amount of injuries that team has sustained through this season, man.
We've talked about the risks of hiring a Ben Johnson when he's got the offensive line that he has. Do you think there's any risk at all in hiring a Ben Johnson, who's coached probably the least mobile quarterback in the NFL, to now coach the guy whose probably greatest strength is what he does when the pocket doesn't hold up?
I honestly think
Ben Johnson would be champing at the bits, dude. I think he would love it that he could have a quarterback who he could move out of the pocket.
He can get more creative.
He'd be champing at the bits. If it was me, I'd be champing at the bits. There's no way that Ben Johnson would not be happy coaching Caleb Williams. I don't think that would be any of his concern in any way, shape, or form when it comes to
Sam Darnold. Just got mollywopped.
I'll play devil's advocate there and say, right now Ben Johnson's system is based on getting the ball out pretty quick in most situations, and maybe that works, maybe it doesn't, and that is always a chance that you take.
There's no RPO in the line.
Right. There's no RPOs. It's a quick passing game. Boom, boom, boom. There's a chance that his system doesn't work with Caleb Williams, but
it works and you expand it.
There's no RPO with Jared Goff. And some of Caleb's most successful plays, especially on like third down, fourth down, came with like runs that were drawn up for Caleb.
Listen, Ben Johnson is a great run game designer, right?
Yeah.
He's shown that. And I think he could then transfer that to the quarterback. And I think the thing that you're talking about with Caleb, that he's been successful being improvisational, I think he would be that much more successful playing within the system, taking what the defense gives him and having a coach that says, you're going to put the ball here at this time, because Caleb has great arm talent. So if Caleb is coached well and plays within the system, Caleb becomes a lot better than if he's constantly being improvisational. Guys, everyone saw this. He avoided 50 sacks this season. Like, you fix that offensive line, you get Caleb to play within a system. Those numbers go way down. There's no way Caleb's not better. There's no way.
Insane, dude. That's I cannot believe when I read that. I'm like, are you? That is he avoided 50 sacks this season, and the next highest guy was like 26.
28. It was 28. Lamar Jackson, I believe. Yeah, 28.
And Caleb avoided 50.
So I can really understand why people want a guy like Ben Johnson in here, because he can develop a sustainable offense, an offensive system that Caleb can work within and grow and get better. And he's going to really focus on.
You think he would utilize designed runs for Caleb?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. But I mean, at the end of the day, that's not Caleb's strength, and that's not what Caleb wants to do either.
Here, and I wasn't saying he was going to fail under Ben Johnson. I'm saying there's always a possibility that his style doesn't mesh with his style, but that's a chance I'm willing to take.
We talked about
a possibility with any of these coaches.
We talked about Jaden Daniels earlier, and Dustin's right, because the quarter, especially at the level that Lamar's playing at, these guys pose threats that make them almost undefendable.
Yeah, but Caleb's not Jaden Daniels.
Caleb is an athletic player. You need to utilize him well enough to let defenses believe,
to make them think about it,
that he can do it, because that makes him much harder,
more dangerous.
Well, Vernon, on the flip side, would it worry you that Todd Monken has this Lamar Jackson can run or pass, and then he comes here and Caleb Williams doesn't have the same threat, that you don't have to worry about him running as much? Would that worry about you, Todd Monken?
It's nowhere on my list, to be honest with you.
No, I think a guy like Todd Monken will see the ability of Caleb Williams. Darius says that Ben Johnson will implement a killer running game that helps Caleb tremendously. I agree with that 100%.
I agree.
That's where any good offensive coach knows where their bread is buttered, with the run game first. That's where it is.
And I'll say this really quick, because I know
run
there's
the
a
ball,
couple
play defense.
people questioning the whole Todd Monken thing. I would
Nice
really look into
notorious.
Tom
I like
Monken.
the joke.
What Todd Monken did at Georgia, what Todd Monken has done to elevate Lamar Jackson in this offense. Yeah, he got Derrick Henry, but this guy has also challenged himself. He's had success in every place he's been. He had success in Tampa Bay in 2018. He is that was Joe Brady who had the 4 1,000-yard receivers. I did a write-up on all these guys, so I get them a little bit confused sometimes, but Todd Monken should be on everybody's list for what he's done with many quarterbacks. Stetson Bennett, for one, a walk-on that he made into a Heisman hopeful and a 2-time national champion. All I'm saying is don't sell Todd Monken short in his ability. He might be a really good coach for a team, probably not here in Chicago because we don't pick those guys.
All those places, though, he's been second fiddle to a leader, Sean.
He has, but if you read the
Kirby Smart's a hell of a coach.
If you read the Stetson Bennett article, go look who he attributes his success to, not Kirby Smart. He attributes it to Todd Monken.
Well, yeah, but Kirby Smart put the system in place to enable Todd Monken to have that.
Yeah, like Sean, Todd Monken, if he's never been in that position, like would he be good at hiring offensive and defensive coordinators?
I don't know.
We
don't know that about Ben Johnson either. So that's not a fair
agree.
question.
I'm saying Todd Monken is just as big of a risk as Ben Johnson, but I think Ben Johnson's probably more innovative when it comes to creating a new style of offense that the NFL has.
Listen, if I'm choosing,
it's tough keeping up with. I mean, you want a guy who's young, innovative, changes the NFL. Like you had guys like Sean McVay did when he got there.
Kyle Shanahan
did in San Francisco. There's still
Kevin
teams
O'Connell.
the 49ers are still running this system that nobody can stop. When that team is healthy, they are still the most dangerous offense in the NFL. Nobody can stop it. I mean, you know Christian McCaffrey's getting the ball. You know he's getting the ball, but he still has 130 yards and 3 touchdowns every game.
But here's the point. You guys, John Harbaugh's defensive guy, takes care of the defensive side of the ball. Tom Monken was brought into Baltimore to run that offense. He's made Baltimore and Lamar Jackson the best offense with the best quarterback, breaking historic records. But you guys don't want to give Todd Monken any credit for that. That's a little ridiculous.
Sean, if you're choosing between Ben Johnson and Todd Monken, who are you choosing? If you're choosing between Ben Johnson and Todd Monken,
I would actually, me personally, I would be okay with either or.
But if you're choosing between the two, who are you choosing?
Like if you're Ryan Poles, you got to choose.
I'm choosing Ben Johnson.
I'll go with Ben Johnson.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not upset either way. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying, don't sell Todd Monken short and say, "Oh, success because of all these other people." When you really look into Todd Monken, there's a lot of success that's attributed to his name.
I believe he's successful. I believe he's a very successful offensive coordinator. I just don't know if he'd be a successful head coach. I think Todd Monken's a smart guy who's good at his job. I just don't know if he's good at a different job. That's all I'm saying.
I agree.
That's it.
We have the same questions about Ben Johnson.
Yes. So I honestly, if Pete Carroll is probably the safest play for the Chicago Bears, right? Do we all agree? I mean, that's who that guy is.
Brian Flores' defense is getting shredded by the Rams offense.
Shocker.
Just to bring up a coordinator that has the Bears have requested an interview for. Brian Flores' defense the last couple games not looking so good. Notorious says Rams are playing very chippy, almost like someone lit a fire under their asses.
Oh,
it's a little too soon.
Hold on. That gets a. I didn't get there fast enough. No, that was not it. I can't.
Darius says Jackson was an MVP with Greg Roman by year 2. Greg Roman's a hell of an offensive coordinator, and that's what he'll always be. Maybe that's what Todd Monken is. Like you said, Kyle, he's almost 60 years old. There's a reason he's been in that position throughout this time.
Darius,
successful.
Who did he break records with? Todd Monken.
Yeah, well, they also got Derrick Henry.
Yeah. And Darius thinks the Bears know who their coach is. Listen, I hope so. I hope the Bears have some semblance of knowledge of what they're doing in this process, guys, because my biggest concern is that they have no idea what the hell they're doing, and it's going to lead to another stilted decision, and it's going to set this franchise back again. That's what I'm worried about. Brandon, you are too, right? Yeah, I mean, we all are, right? We all have to be a little.
Oh, Calebwilliams just fumbled and the Vikings recovered it.
He got to.
Oh no, he got it. Oh, Puka got it. Never mind.
I don't even know what to think as a fan anymore, Dustin. Like I don't know that. I don't like. I'm one of these guys. It's torn between like hire the guy that you. If Pete Carroll's who you want, hire him. And then I'm also like, wait for Ben Johnson, wait for Joe Brady, wait for what I mean. So
Yeah, it's like this weird line between conviction and a sense of urgency, or patience and letting that pay off, that reward of the benefit
So
of that.
to that point, guys, Pete Carroll's camp said that his desired location was Chicago. So I think when it comes to Pete Carroll, you have some leeway.
I
Like,
agree,
I
Darius.
think if you say, hey, Pete, we just want to complete a couple more interviews before we make a decision, I think he'll wait for him because he wants to be in Chicago. That's what he said.
Not if Dallas
Pete
called
Carroll
him.
said that.
Not if the Cowboys call him up. I don't believe that. I think he'll go take
He never said he wanted the Cowboys. I mean, the Cowboys weren't an option then, so I don't know. But as far as I could tell, Chicago is the place he wants to be. I think he likes Caleb Williams, man. I think that's what it is. I think any of these guys who are saying I'd like to go to Chicago, I think it's because of Caleb Williams. I don't think it's much of a question.
I guess, I mean, and are the Bears jaded? Is Ryan Poles jaded? Because last offseason he said, I'm sticking with Matt Eberflus. And then immediately after saying that, Belichick's available and Vrabel's available and all these, you know what I mean? Did Ryan Poles have the sense of loyalty to feel like I've made this decision already? And would he have made it if those guys were available previously? So
How dangerous is that?
Ryan Poles sitting here like I need to wait because somebody, Mike Tomlin, could pop up?
We've all been there, man, in our lives where you make a decision that you think is the right decision and it turns out horribly for you and it puts you on tilt and you start questioning all the decisions you make and then you take too long, paralysis by analysis, and then every decision ends up being the wrong decision. It becomes this, like fait accompli, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Is Ryan Poles in that spot? Did the Flus thing mess him up internally, and is he going to be able to get over that hump?
I'm sure there's some scars for sure. I mean, that was
hopefully
not a
he's
good hire.
able to learn from his mistakes because that's what you're supposed to do. Because apparently Ryan Poles was hired to learn on the job. So,
but is it?
And I think he's probably
Sean. What does that mean? Does that mean wait as the dominoes fall? You just wait and wait and wait because last time you
I kind of
don't know, but he's probably more inclined to be hesitant. That doesn't mean he's going to wait till.
That's what they did.
I'm sure Ryan Poles knows he needs a coach, and he needs
when they retained Matty Eberflus. See, Sean, that's what I mean. When they hired Matty Eberflus, they waited. I think they were the last team to hire a coach. Then they tell Matty Eberflus he's the coach. He's going to be retained immediately. So was that overcorrection? And now are you going to do this thing all over again, where you're waiting until the end, and these guys are dropping like flies? And then the question, I guess, then you really have to ask is, if you're waiting, Dustin, Sean, Kyle, if you're going to wait this out till these guys are done with the Super Bowl, do you know who the hell you want?
I said it earlier.
If they want Ben Johnson, they got to wait.
I think it's Ben Johnson.
Nothing they can do about it, guys. If they want Ben Johnson, they got to wait. It's not up to Ben Johnson.
Did the Zoom call go well enough?
I think within 2 weeks after the Super Bowl, the Bears will have their coach if the Lions make the Super Bowl.
Oh, so we're waiting until damn near March. We're going to be having these conversations for the next month and a half about what's going on. And see, but then you're like, well, is that too long? And like to your point, Brandon, like if they wait, is the guy that they want still there? Are they still an option? Those are the things that you got to
choose them. Dustin. If they wait for the last guy and he's like, I want that job. I mean, it's like,
yeah, no, it just kind of falls into place because that's what's left. Are you waiting for leftovers from everybody else? That's another concern.
That's something I think that's something that should be a very big concern.
The Bears' defense, nobody's been hired but Mike Vrabel. I think Mike Vrabel was going to go to the Patriots the second they fired Rod Mayo. I think that was a done.
I think those two
conclusion. Nothing was going to change that. The rest of the teams are probably having the same conversation we're having right now. Like, our Raiders, are we waiting for Ben Johnson or the rest of these coaches?
Let me ask you a question.
They have to wait for him.
Let me ask you a question based off of that, though. What you just said about Mike Vrabel, the Bears, if everybody knew because they fired Mayo on that Sunday and that Monday right after that game, right? And they hadn't interviewed Vrabel yet. The Bears had not interviewed him yet. So you just accept the fact that Vrabel's not going to come here. We're the Chicago Bears. We have Caleb Williams. We have all this draft capital. We have all this cap space. We're a pretty nice destination to look at if you're a head coach in waiting. Why would you not bring him in person?
I mean,
why would you not pull out all the stops to make an attempt?
I don't.
You can't just say you don't have a chance, so why even try?
I don't think that would have changed anything. I don't think it would change anything. I think that Mike Vrabel was always going to go to the Patriots.
But it matters what the Bears do, is what I'm saying. What they do shows you where their head is. So, like, you should have pulled out all the stops if this is a guy that you actually were concerned about having be your head coach.
In my
if you
defense,
were interested in that, you should have shown it a little more, because I don't think Vrabel felt that love
I
based
will
on how they
say,
went about
the
it.
second that the Patriots fired Rob Mato, that became the most attractive head coaching job. They have $132 million in cap space for free agency, a young quarterback, and a ton of draft
They have
capital.
no roster. They have nobody on
I don't
that
know about
team.
that.
Yeah, it's a blank slate. It's a blank slate. You know what they do have? They have a quarterback, and they have the most money.
I think Vrabel and the Patriots had spoken before.
Yeah, I think Mike. He still has a house in New England. If New England was going to be an option, that's where he was going to go. Now, I'm not disagreeing with Dustin.
Doesn't mean you don't try.
Yeah, you should have called him to the building for sure, no doubt about it. And definitely don't send him on United airfares. Go get him a private jet and bring him over to Halas.
The Bears only fly coaches in and coach, man. They don't spring for first class or private jets. It's
I think
coach.
they are this year. I think they are this year.
Yeah, they changed their policy. They They need a new appearance.
They should have done more. They should have done
even
more. Even if
their
it wouldn't have
private jet.
resulted in Vrabel being
Vrabel slipped through the cracks very much.
Yeah.
And it's discouraging because, like Sean said,
but for every team, right?
How long
For
have the
every
Bears had to start this coaching search? Vrabel is actually one of the guys. He was a consultant with another team. The second that ended, you could have had your hands all over it. And it's just another thing, like Sean said, after nothing seems to have been done since Flus was fired. The very first and to me most important domino for what this team needed, culture guy, is gone. It's discouraging. It feels to me, and I'm sorry, Kyle, it feels to me like Ryan Poles is already fucking this up.
But there's 5 other teams that missed out on Mike Vrabel. Not only that, but you guys, I mean, think about this, guys. Just think about this. Listen, I'm not saying I agree with Dustin. They should have done more. But listen to this. This guy played for the Patriots for 10 years. He won 3 Super Bowls there. He's got a good relationship with Tucker Kraft, or with Robert Kraft. He still has a house in New England. He obviously likes the area he lived in. He liked the schools his kids grew up in. He loves New England. It's always going to have a part of his heart. He has the most salary cap of any team in the NFL. He's got just as many draft picks as the Chicago Bears. He's got a young quarterback that by all accounts is going to be good for a long time. I mean, I'm not saying that they couldn't have tried to pry him from New England, but I don't think it was going to happen. It's kind of like
does it say though that if you're the Chicago Bears, the New England Patriots are that much more attractive than you?
Let me ask you,
they haven't spent any money in free agency.
Well, did any other team fly?
The Bears have some solid pieces, man.
But did any other team fly Vrabel in? Did he have any other in-person interviews except for New England? Did he interview in person with the Jets? I think he did.
Yeah. And he did. Again, the Bears just didn't do enough. And it calls into question everything when you're telling me you can't convince me that the Patriots is a better opportunity than the Chicago Bears, the way that roster is currently comprised. And that ownership is dysfunctional too. I made this point previously. As soon as Belichick was out of that building, they ran his name through the mud, talked down on him to everybody who was looking for a head coach to follow that offseason, and made a whole documentary where they basically discredit him for everything he did for that franchise. I would have a huge problem with that if I was a head coach, and if I was the Bears, I would have highlighted that to Mike.
But if the Bears bring Marcus Freeman into the building,
they're going to do to you.
So let's just say for the Bears, for example, let's say they bring Marcus Freeman into the building, has an interview, and Marcus Freeman calls the Bears and is like, "Hey, you know what? I chose Notre Dame over the Chicago Bears. Is that enough? Because what if Mike Vrabel was probably going to do the same exact thing, but with the Patriots over the Bears? It's a bit
different because Freeman
probably the same thing.
Freeman has the job. He's not a free agent.
But you're still. But as you're saying, is that enough then? Did bringing Marcus Freeman in and interviewing him face to face, was that enough?
Yes, 100%. Yes, 100%. If you do everything you can, if you want Marcus Freeman, you do everything you can to get Marcus Freeman. If you want,
my point is,
and here's the thing: there's no reason in hell the Bears should not have wanted Mike Vrabel so bad.
My point is, 4 other teams in the NFL didn't make a very valiant effort to get Mike Vrabel.
Those teams were not on the same level as the Chicago Bears.
If you guys look at, so right now the Bears have 20 names on a list. I looked at today, it's just 2 of the other teams' coaching lists. The names they've requested and interviewed. 8 was the most I saw. 8. Is this a concern for you guys?
No.
How wide the net's been cast?
No,
because again, I think a lot of it's intel searching and, just looking at this. I think the Bears already have their list. They know what their list is and they have to wait. So while they're waiting, they're casting this net. They're putting feelers out. There's, hey, what's this guy say? What's this guy say? And they're going to put it all together. I'm with Darius. I think the Bears know who their guy is. Whether they can get him or not is a whole nother 2-hour podcast. But I think they do. And, let's see if Ryan Poles can execute. We have no choice. I really, really hope that this guy learned from his first mistakes and he can strike. Be cerebral and strike when the iron's hot.
I agree with Sean, man. I don't think they were in a position to make the decision on Vrabel because I think they were like, we really, 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 really want to talk to Ben Johnson. We really want to talk to Ben Johnson. We're not going to ask Mike Vrabel to wait to become the Patriots to turn down a head coaching job in the NFL to wait for us. We want to talk to Ben Johnson. The Bears said that before the coaching search began. When the season was still in play, when Thomas Brown was the interim head coach, the Bears were saying Mike Vrabel and Ben Johnson are our 2 top guys. If Ben Johnson was on that list of top 2 guys, you have to talk to him, right? You told everybody in the building, you told each other in the front office, we have to talk to Ben Johnson. That's the guy we have to talk to. They unfortunately, just with the way the Lions made the playoffs, they didn't have the opportunity to bring him into the building. They still want to make that decision to bring him in the building and talk to him face to face. There's nothing they could do. Mike Vrabel was hired before they had the opportunity to do that.
That's
just
my
timing.
issue.
Victim of circumstance. That's what that is.
I wouldn't have waited for Ben Johnson, and me personally,
you wouldn't. Yeah, exactly. The Bears would. You wouldn't. Maybe Brennan would. Maybe Sean wouldn't.
Justin Brandon, Kyle. Let me ask you guys this:
was not going to hire him.
Say Ben Johnson's hired here, and it doesn't work out, and he turns out to be Josh McDaniels. Are you upset with the Bears even more because they didn't get Vrabel?
Yes.
But they went with the hot guy.
Because Vrabel was the clear choice because of what this team needs. This team does not need a creative offense. This team needs balls. This team needs an identity. That's what this team needs. And I guarantee you Vrabel's going to be successful in New England. I guarantee it. This could be another Mitch Trubisky moment for the Bears. Like we could have had Pat Mahomes or even Deshaun Watson, and we traded up with the Niners to get Mitch Trubisky. We waited on Ben Johnson and chose him over Mike Vrabel. That could be a thing that comes back to
Kevin Warren should be at fault for all of this, guys. Kevin Warren should be to blame for all of this because by all accounts, and we've heard it from 50 different sources now, that Ryan Poles wanted to interview Jim Harbaugh. He wanted to interview Jim Harbaugh. Can you imagine if Jim Harbaugh was the coach? I'd take him over Mike Vrabel all day.
I wanted Jim Harbaugh more than anything last year.
Yeah, he was not allowed that interview.
Harbaugh and Belichick out there and Vrabel.
Ryan Poles was told, no, you're not getting that interview. That's bullshit. That's not fair to him.
Vrabel, Belichick, Harbaugh, we're all out there. We retained Matt Eberflus. It's the chicken or the egg conversation. This dysfunction has led to all these things. You could have had Vrabel when there was no competition.
But Dustin, that's what I'm saying, though. Jim Harbaugh wasn't an option for Ryan Poles. It was never an option. He wasn't.
Vrabel wasn't either?
He was told no.
Vrabel may have been, but
I don't know about Vrabel. I have no idea with Vrabel. No idea. But I know for a fact. I mean, you guys.
Well, based on
Matt Eberflus interviewed Liam Cohen and then hired Shane Waldron. Imagine if just that decision right there had been changed. Imagine if Liam Cohen was the offensive coordinator for the Bears.
Liam Cohen.
And Shane Waldron was not. This team would have looked a lot different.
Listen, guys, there's a lot. There's a lot to still get to with this. Like you guys are saying, this is going to be a long game, right, Sean? We're going to be waiting for a while here.
No, it's going to be the long game.
Unfold in the next month.
Listen, I wanted the Bears to cast a wide net. I said that last week. I just didn't know it was going to be this wide.
So it's over the Pacific.
What's crazy, guys?
I don't names pop up.
Yeah, I don't think it's over.
I don't either.
20 named.
Hey, we're going to put a bow on this here pretty quickly, but I wanted to get your guys' thoughts because I don't know if I'll be here next Monday. I'm going to try. But BCS National Championship. I heard you guys say earlier you guys are both taking Notre Dame, all three of you guys, to win.
No, Kyle said he's taking Ohio State.
Taking Ohio State.
For Notre Dame.
Taking Ohio State.
Sean never.
I just love Notre Dame and the Cinderella story, and they keep finding ways to win games. They were down 10-0 in that game against Penn State, and a lot of Notre Dame teams from the past would have folded. Marcus Freeman kept his team in it, and he kept his team motivated and energized. They just keep finding ways to make plays to win it, man. I think the magic continues. That's what I'm feeling.
Well, I'll say this: last year, ND or OSU played ND. They were 4-point favorites. They won 27-14, and the Irish had 10 players on defense in that game. They had a bunch of injuries. Lots changed since then. They are
Irish only played with 10 players on defense.
Are you saying they only
Yes.
played with 10 men?
Yeah, they had injuries, dude. They had some injuries last year, and they lost 17-14. Yeah,
They had
So
10 men on defense the entire
they
game.
had 10 players on defense, which was mentioned during the game a few times. I took this clip directly out of the article.
Penalty.
Ohio State
Not
should
enough
have won
men on the
58 to
field.
nothing.
The Buckeyes won 17-14. That's what I'm trying
They
to
should
tell
have won
you.
58 to nothing.
Today, they're 10-point favorites going into next week.
I love those points. I love those points for
Dude,
sure.
Marcus Freeman could have got on the field and played for them. He is physically capable of doing that. He still looks like he can play football.
I like Notre Dame's defense. I like Notre Dame's defense against Will Howard. I don't think Will Howard's
Really?
Yeah, I don't love Will Howard.
Listen, Notre Dame and Ohio State both have great run defenses and both want to run the ball. So that's what it's going to come down to. Who can establish the run first and the most? That's what it'll come
So here
down to.
it goes. According to the information, 10 prominent players for Notre Dame were on their defense. It says, however, the exact lineup may vary depending on specific game and situational factors. So have to delve a lot more into it, but none of
that makes sense to me. Though. I'm still confused on what this means.
Hey, I'm just telling
10,
you, dude.
10 players on IR? Is that what they're trying to say?
They couldn't get Rudy out there.
I'm trying to look more. Trying to look for it right now so I can.
Vince Vaughn wasn't available.
maybe what's his name was out
We need
there.
to have like an emergency goalie like the NHL, dude, where you just take somebody out of the stand.
I guess the question is, what was Notre Dame's record when they played with 10 guys? Let's get Freeman in the building.
Yeah. If they play with 10 guys and they had a winning record, hire Freeman right now.
This is going deep down a weird hole.
I mean, that's just ridiculous. I've never heard this. I don't watch college football, but I listen pretty closely. I've never heard of a team having only 10 players on the field.
Yeah, don't they have like 90 players on their roster?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, so here's the story. Here's the story. It was for, and here's actual pictures of it. There's actual pictures of it right here from SportsCenter. Notre Dame played 3 different plays.
Okay.
With only 10 players on defense.
All right, so that's some weird shit.
Yep. 3, and it was 14-10.
GM John, what up?
What's up, man?
Thanks
It's pretty crazy. I'm looking at it right here, September 23rd, 2023.
Okay.
Well, thanks, GM John. Really appreciate that.
Well, hopefully Notre Dame has 11 players on the field at all times this Monday coming up.
I'm taking OSU, and
of course,
I hate to say this, but I'm going to probably take them to be really close to covering that spread.
Stafford is 11 of 12 for 124 yards and a touchdown.
Good.
Shredding that defense.
Knock the Vikings out of here, dude.
Yeah,
wait a minute. And this is you still want Brian Flores?
Who wants Brian Flores?
As our head coach?
They scored 10 points. I mean, it's not like it's 38.
Oh, my God. Touchdown Vikings. Come on. Stafford, 10-10.
It's 10-10. You want Brian Flores?
Oh, my God. That Brian Flores defense. Listen, we're hiring Brian Flores. It's decided I want Brian Flores.
Yeah, stop determining your decisions while you're watching the football games.
I think they might be saying it's not a touchdown.
How's that not a touchdown?
Matt Stafford's not getting off the field.
I don't know. That's a fumble. By all accounts, I don't understand. Unless there's a penalty of some sort.
There's nothing about that.
John, Bruce.
Oh, he threw it. He threw it. He threw it.
Are they saying that's a pass?
He threw it. That's insane. All right, guys. GM John, thanks for joining us. We had Notorious TBG in here. Breaking News Bruce. Ant Mass, as always. Plank, All-Star. Darius, thanks for joining us. I'm going to see you in a little bit. We had Trax in here earlier as well, man. Thanks to everybody for being in here. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. Tell a friend. Tell a loved one. Tell us how much you like it, or tell us what we can get better at. Appreciate all of you, man.
And
love you guys, man. Everybody have a great
show, everybody. Thank you, everybody. We love y'all.
Thanks,
God
guys.
bless y'all. Prayers out to everyone in LA. Everyone, send some shouts out to them. They need a lot of help right now. Like I said, look up that Red Cross stuff. See if anyone can throw a couple bucks. I'm sure they can help it. Use it right now. Use all the help they can get. Until next week, I may or may not be here, so if I don't see y'all for a couple of weeks, love y'all. I'll miss y'all. Bear down. I know I won't be coming back to a head coach. So,
Hold on, man.
All right,
all
guys.
right.